Let me know when you're ready.
Yes, sir. Ready.
Okay. If we could come to order here. This is the regular meeting of the Encinitas City Council, and we will start with roll call.
Sure. Councilmember Lyons?
Here.
Councilmember San Antonio?
Present.
Councilmember Schaefer is present.
Right behind
Yep.
you.
Deputy Mayor O'Hara is present, and then Mayor Ehlers.
Here.
Record will show all members of the City Council are present tonight.
And if you can rise, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item is special presentations and proclamations, and we have none. And that moves us to oral communications. How many do we have?
Currently, we have 10 speakers in person and then 3 registered by phone.
Okay, so that's going to be, we will go to 2 minutes per. And this is our first meeting with SB 707. So we have online commentary and in person. And the way the rules are written, that we decided here in a previous meeting is that we take the in-person first, followed by the online. Okay. So if the clerk will call the oral comments.
And just a reminder, oral communications is that opportunity to speak on anything that is not on the agenda. First 3 speakers, Brad Lefkowitz, followed by Patty Stoudemire, and then Ron Medek.
Howdy, Mayor, Council members, Brad Lefkowitz, District 4. Throughout your campaigns and your time here, we have heard a lot about fighting development. But despite the promises, Bella Vista approved, Camino approved, Ocean Bluff approved, Quail Meadows, the largest project in Encinitas history, was approved. Sage Creek and other projects continue to move forward. Now the city appears to have suffered another setback and is challenged to the Clark Avenue project. I don't say that with any satisfaction. I think Clark is a particularly brutal project, and I feel for the residents nearby who will be impacted. But we should also be worried about your lawsuit putting us back into the crosshairs of HCD. We should be worried about being sued for damages, and worst case, we should be worried about the developer that might make up for lost time and increased costs by adding units to a project that is not yet maxed out. We've seen that happen before. I think it's time we start looking for new tools that might actually work to stem the tide of overdevelopment. One tool I hope the city will seriously explore is AB 787, a state law passed in 2021. In simple terms, AB 787 allows cities, under certain conditions, to convert existing market rate apartments into long-term, deed-restricted affordable housing and receive credit toward their RENA numbers. That means creating affordable housing without building something new. Converting just 10 units to affordable makes the same progress toward our RENA requirement as a brand new 70-unit complex. There is precedent in Huntington Beach. The 400-unit breakwater apartment complex, built in 1972, was converted from market rate apartments into 100% deed-restricted affordable housing. I'm not suggesting this is simple. It is not. But we're already spending money studying ways to increase our percentage of inclusionary housing. I hope Council will also direct staff to investigate whether AB 787 could be another tool for Encinitas. If we're serious about reducing pressure for new development, while creating housing our workforce can actually afford, this seems worthy of a serious look. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I would like to thank you all and the Mobility, Traffic, and Safety Commission and the staff and the sheriffs for all you have done so far to make our streets safer. I feel we just need more of that. More of these big digital signs, like on Encinitas Boulevard and El Camino Real, saying to slow down, stop at lights, etc. We need it drilled into our brains. More of the blinking lights at the crosswalks. Big signs at intersections, crosswalks that say, please save lives, stop, look, listen. coordinating with the schools to incorporate street safety lessons for car drivers, bicyclists, e-bikers, scooters, pedestrians. These are true preventative measures. Thank you.
Ron Bedek. Ron is followed by Dave Dean, Judy Burlfine, and then Bob Ayers.
Good evening, Council. I didn't have much to say except that we have a new format now where we're only allowed 3 minutes to speak. And I remember at the victory party after the previous election cycle, the present mayor said that this was going to be a public forum where the public could come and speak their mind. So I'd like to point out that 3 minutes is not enough time that people need in order to be able to formulate, go through a program or a plan, or even develop really a coherent thought of any serious topic. So I'm going to encourage this council to find ways to not comply. I don't know. I read through 707 and I couldn't find any specific mandate about time, but maybe I missed that because it was all legalese for how many pages, I don't know. And I finally gave up and tried to look for keywords. But in any event, I would say do not comply, find ways to be able to get around that. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, staff. Dave Dean. Welcome back after the vacation. I would like to bring up something I would have preferred to bring up right before July 4th, and that is I would like the City Council to give serious thought and consideration into having an agenda for the 4th of July sponsored by the city next year, where the city stands up and says, "Thank you, America," and we salute and support that flag. The city's been here since 1986, and we still don't have anything to really show our support for the 4th of July. We tried with the Legion, the American Legion this year. I think we missed out on timing, and I'd like to be a part of it. The American Legion would like to be a part of it. Let's get something on the books where we can stand up and say Encinitas is proud of America. So we can do that. That would be amazing, and I look forward to that opportunity. Another thing is the Parks and Recreation Dog Days of Summer was outstanding. Again, the first time I've been, blew my mind, the support of the community and the love for dogs. It was just incredible. So well done, Parks and Recreation, the Cardiff community that sponsored part of it. All just awesome. I got 30 seconds left. My time is short. So I'll save my next agenda for item for next time. But he said 3 minutes was too short. 2 minutes is way too short. So let's keep that in mind. Maybe limit the time that council has to respond back to items might be a good idea, and keeping the time limit. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Okay, good evening and welcome back. I'm Judy Burlfine. I'm a member of Encinitas Bike Walk. Our vision is for walking and biking to serve as a safe, convenient, healthy, and fun mode of transportation for all ages and abilities. So thanks for scheduling a discussion on roadway safety and enforcement. I think discussion is always good. The City of Encinitas has a comprehensive safety action plan that was many years in development. And in April of 2025, the Mobility Commission recommended the city adopt the plan. So please don't reinvent the wheel. We have a plan. Let's use it to improve the safety of our streets. I also want to talk about AB 413, went into effect in January of 2025, and it bans parking within 20 feet of the approach of sidewalks to improve pedestrian and driver visibility. When it first went into effect, Christine Schindler made small flyers and distributed them to many of us. We were to put them on cars to remind and educate drivers about the new law. Since then, Councilmember O'Hara has also suggested that the city paint the curbs red to prevent vehicles from parking close to sidewalks. And for today's meeting, Natalie Satoon submitted written comment endorsing this recommendation to paint the curbs red. So here's an opportunity for success. I support Christine, Jim, and Natalie's recommendation. Thank you.
Good evening, Bob Ayers, Encinitas resident. In August of last year, Mr. O'Hara, who is not a lawyer, was allowed to spend almost an hour sitting up there reading from what I can only imagine was a legal brief created with artificial intelligence. He was allowed to go on and on about the Clark development, listing countless alleged violations of the developer. Mr. O'Hara was allowed to repeat his allegations again during deliberations. That same evening, a real lawyer, using human intelligence, spent about 9 minutes telling you all exactly what the law is. But your empty promises to prevent more housing drove you to remain laser focused on the Clark development and O'Hara's imaginations. You shopped and found a lawyer
Point of
that would
order.
agree with you.
Point of order. Hang on,
Yeah.
Bob. Yeah, no, point of order is perfectly, go ahead. I think your question is whether or not this is a personal, hey, hang on. I will have to throw you out if you're going to, well, yeah, point of order. I will make a ruling, and I'll just check with the parliamentarian. When somebody does point of order, it could come from the floor, it can come from up here. I make a ruling of whether the person is out of order, correct?
Correct. We pause the time and then we allow them to proceed after you make your ruling.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so your point, and there's no discussion on point of order, as I recall.
Correct.
Okay. And your point of order was based on, it's a
This is a personal attack. It has nothing
personal
to do with city
attack.
business.
And I don't think it's a personal attack. You're saying what he said, you're characterizing it, you're within your freedom of speech, in my opinion, in this case.
He
it-
mischaracterized what I said. He
I-
made an assumption that was untrue.
Okay,
And then he
hang on.
insulted me by saying that somebody else was a quote-unquote real lawyer. How is that not a personal attack?
It is within his First Amendment right to have that opinion, and I am making a ruling that
His opinions are supposed to be
we're
towards
not,
the council.
point of order,
not
I don't
individual
believe there
people.
is discussion and back and forth on.
That would be correct.
Okay,
It
but
is
what you
the
can
speaker's
do is you can appeal. So point of order, appeal. If you want to appeal my decision, you can do that. Then it will be, without discussion, I believe also, up to the board to vote whether it is out of order or in order.
I'll let him go on record. I know this is the many times that he comes after me personally and takes us, instead of coming after the council, to discuss city issues and makes it personal about me. But I'll let you continue.
Well,
this is not the first time you've
I'll
attacked
let
me
him
publicly.
continue, but
Yep.
that's a whole nother
Go ahead.
matter. I just wanted to make sure we're following Robert's rules. Everybody, Robert's rules are set up for exactly this kind of acrimonious situation. So
They're not
with-
set up
with-
to allow people to celebrate what they consider to be.
I wish
negative
you would
impact on the
stop,
city.
Jim, because you're violating. I should put you out of order at this point.
I am out of order on this.
So yeah, please don't. So with that, continue. But personal attacks on personality, on non-issues, but you're citing past issues or past, I should say, testimony up here. So I will allow it. So sorry for the interruption.
Not at all. You shopped and found a lawyer that would agree with you, and we sued the developer. The judge looked at your complaint very carefully, and just last Friday, a year after Mr. O'Hara's rant, the judge said no, nothing here. No discovery, no jury, no trial. The judge said you had no business even being in the courts. The judge said, get out. We lawyers refer to that as a butt kicking. You ended up wasting thousands and thousands of dollars in legal fees, many hours of staff time, raising the hopes of the good people of that community, exposes to a much greater chance of a lawsuit by the developer, and once again revealed to us that you already know what we already know. You do not listen to experts. Your use of city funds to fight lawful acts was a waste. The reckless act of yours is not the only one. There are smart people all around you, experts. You need to listen to them. But you won't. You will spend the rest of your term doing what you always do, waste hours on the dais, convincing each other, do the wrong thing, do it, and then blame someone else.
Final
Someone
four
asked the last, so I don't
speakers
need to
in
defend.
person, Callie Kelsey, followed by Ellen Burr, Molly Hantlian, and Bernie Dillon.
Good evening, council members. My name's Callie Kelsey. I'm here because I care about the safety of our families and community, and because I want to be a part of the solution alongside each of you. I'm also here so we can remember the people we have lost on our streets. They were children, family members, friends, classmates, and neighbors. Their lives matter, and their loss should remind us of the work that still needs to be done. I serve as the president of Safe Kids San Diego and work in injury prevention. One of the most important things I've learned is that prevention works, but it rarely comes from one solution. It takes a multifaceted approach, thoughtful infrastructure and engineering, education, appropriate speeds, responsible behavior, enforcement, and community engagement. It takes all of us working together. I've been learning more about the work Encinitas is currently doing, including the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. And my request tonight is simple. Please prioritize that work and keep moving it forward. Use the data, focus on where the greatest risks are, identify the gaps, and continue finding solutions together. Thank you for the work you're already doing, and please know that you're not alone. I want to listen, learn, collaborate, and help wherever I can, and I know that there are many people, even sitting in this room right now, that are ready and willing to do the same. Because one of the most meaningful ways we can honor those that we have lost is through prevention. We all have a role to play, and together we can make our streets safer for everyone. Again, thank you for what you're doing, and please know that there are many that are here that would be ready and willing to help you. Thank you.
Good evening, council. Sorry I didn't wear my sequin jacket to do stylistic stop, look, and listen, but that is something that we really need to look at. Is we've done a lot of infrastructure, physical and coordinating with our police force, but I think we're missing an education component, and I'm hoping that, as I recommended to Traffic and Safety the other night, that you can have a quickly formed task force between them and health and safety, and get some people from the school districts to find out. I have no idea if they teach stop, look, and listen anymore, or that you walk facing traffic unless there's a sidewalk. There are a lot of things that people are not doing, and it's not just children, it's parents you see, or adults who go out into the middle of the intersection and glance in both directions while they're already in the intersection. So good luck with that. But it would be really good, I think, to think about that, because our incidents that have happened so far are at two crosswalks and a signalized intersection. And we have many people that, I don't even think jaywalking is illegal anymore in the state of California. So thank heavens we have daylighting and red signals, red curbs. But let's try expanding and getting some education in there. And finally, I really hope we're going to see that code of conduct soon. Thank you.
Good evening, council. Welcome back. I missed our Wednesdays. I want to thank council. That's not a joke. I want to thank council for approving the extra crossing guards at Village Parkway and Parkdale Lane. Today, I observed school drop-off. Several of the parents stated they were very pleased. I saw lots of smiling faces coming to and from school, and the crossing guards were also grateful. While I'm on the topic of crossing guards, I want to refresh my ask for a crossing guard at Encinitas Boulevard at Belore. I have spoken at the SDU HSD board last week. I spoke at the meeting, and I plan to bring it to the school district liaison committee meeting with the hope that we can negotiate an additional crossing guard or two. And in the interim, can we ask the volunteer sheriff to assist? I say this because this week I noted that the volunteer sheriff were at the community center parking lot on Tuesday, and they were assisting with the Oak Crest school pickup. So it was just an opportunity in the interim that maybe we can deploy our volunteer sheriff at key areas where we may be seeing some deficiencies. And since I have 15 more seconds, I want to also say red curbs, red curbs, red curb, red curb. We can't do enough. It's needed around Parkdale Lane, and I agree with the prior speaker. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Ellers and City Council. Bernie Dillon, 39 years, Cardiff. Welcome back. Thank you to the law enforcement and the drone pilots, all 6 of them covering Cardiff on July 4th. For the first time in 20 plus years, it was quiet. Not one single firework went off. People were watching those drones. My neighborhood was safe. This got me thinking, after 20 years of people firing off scores of illegal fireworks, what changed on our country's 250th birthday? Cameras, eyes in the sky, and the fines people would have received by law enforcement. Too many lives have been lost on Encinitas Street, not just our kids, moms, dads, grandparents, uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters. We signed a contract with the state of California when we got our licenses to obey the drive laws. Yet daily we see drivers who believe these are just suggestions until they see law enforcement. Calming lanes, speed bumps, max speed limit signs, stoplights, stop signs do not issue any sort of consequence for illegal activity. Video cameras run 24/7, 365 days a year, and they are the extra eyes of the law enforcement. Video cameras provide consequences that cost people their insurance, their driver's license, their cars, and even more serious consequences for breaking the law. This is an immediate, effective solution to the streets of Encinitas to make them safer right now. Accidents will still happen because people are human and they make mistakes. These people that choose to speed, not stop at stop signs or stoplights, crosswalks that are well lit up. Thank you.
That concludes our in-person testimony for oral communication, and now we're going to go to our telephonic. First speaker is Madison Rapp.
Hi, my name is Madison, and I'm a mother of 3 and a public health advocate. As summer comes to an end and children are getting ready to return to school, I want to bring to your attention an issue that parents, teachers, and schools will be dealing with again this year, which is youth vaping. Nicotine addiction can begin quickly, and vaping has made it remarkably easy for young people to become addicted without fully understanding what they are putting into their bodies. In California, vaping remains the most commonly used tobacco product among youth. In the 2024 California Youth Tobacco Survey, 5% of high school students reported current vape use. And we know that what is technically prohibited from sale does not necessarily stay out of young people's hands. California has strengthened its flavored tobacco laws and enforcement, including allowing authorities to seize illegal flavored products. Yet the state continues to identify prohibited products in the marketplace, including here in Encinitas. That should give us pause when we consider the broader commercial environment surrounding our children. Encinitas already has cannabis storefronts in our community, and we have seen how difficult enforcement can be when illegal or prohibited products continue to find their way into circulation. As our kids head back to school, I hope the city will continue treating youth substance use prevention as a public health priority, not just an enforcement issue after children are already addicted. We should be doing everything we can to reduce the visibility, availability, and normalization of addictive substances around young people, and to make sure our schools and families have the support they need to prevent use before it starts. Thank you.
Next telephonic speaker is Becky Rapp.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Becky, and I come to ask this council to take a formal position opposing AB 2697 and to communicate that opposition directly to our state senators. AB 2697 would allow local jurisdictions to authorize drive-through sales at marijuana retailers. The bill is currently on the Senate floor and must be acted upon by August 31st. If it passes the Senate, it will move to the governor's desk. A drive-through is designed for convenience and speed. Applying that model to an intoxicating drug sends a very different message than requiring someone to enter a highly regulated retail environment with armed guards. We should not be creating a system that makes purchasing marijuana as easy and convenient as picking up fast food, especially when the customer is already sitting behind the wheel of a vehicle. I'm also concerned about the normalization for young people. The bill doesn't contain language stating that minors cannot be present in the vehicle if a marijuana purchase is made through a drive-through. We have spent years trying to reduce youth exposure to marijuana and reinforce the message that marijuana is an intoxicating drug, not an ordinary consumer product. Encinitas has an opportunity to send a clear message to Sacramento. We do not believe convenience should come before public safety. I respectfully ask the council to formally oppose AB 2697, making it clear that Encinitas does not support expanding marijuana sales into drive-through operations. Thank you.
Final telephonic speaker is Gort Orbison, who doesn't look like they're connected, so we'll give them a quick moment to try to connect.
Clerk, could you say the name again?
Gort Orbison?
So they have to be logged in at this time to speak? Okay. So if they're not there, then, and they're not, you don't see them logging in or anything? Okay. Welcome to the new world, SB 707, so, okay, so I'd say we move on.
That concludes oral communication for tonight.
With that, we move on to item 6, which is report from closed session, but we didn't have one. Item 7, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda, and moving to the consent calendar, items 8E and 8I have been removed by members of the public.
Okay, so any other, would the council like to remove any others? I'm not seeing any, so
I'll move
entertain-
approval.
I've got a motion for everything but 8E and 8I.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. With that, we'll call the question.
That motion carries unanimously and takes us to item 8E.
Okay, and one person pulled it? How many?
We have 5 speakers on that item.
5 speakers, okay, so I'm going to assume we want a staff report. I doubt we'll get 5 people to agree that they don't want a staff report, so start with a staff report.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Nailani Patterson, and I am the Civic Spark Fellow in the Sustainability Division. Before you tonight is the 2025 Climate Action Plan Annual Monitoring Report. The report presents implementation progress on the city's adopted Climate Action Plan, or CAP. The current CAP was adopted in 2018 and revised in 2020. The 2020 CAP set the goals to reduce emissions by 13% below the 2012 baseline by 2020 and 44% below the baseline by 2030. The CAP outlines 20 measures within 7 strategies to meet these goals. Data was collected in early 2026, then analyzed and organized into the final report before you today. The 2025 annual report provides a detailed summary of the CAP, its strategies, and implementation progress for each measure based on the 2025 calendar year. The annual report demonstrates that of the 20 measures, 12 are complete, 4 are in progress and on track, 2 are behind schedule, and 2 are on hold. The 2025 Climate Action Plan Annual Monitoring Report makes several recommendations to City Council for City Council consideration, including the reevaluation of measures in the upcoming CAP update for consistency with council priorities and budget constraints. This concludes my presentation. As a reminder, the recommended action is to approve the 2025 Climate Action Plan Annual Monitoring Report. Thank you.
Okay, are there any preliminary questions from council? If not, we'll hear the 5 public speakers.
Sure. First 3 speakers, Dennis Luget, followed by Dr. Denruth Luget, and then Stace Luget.
Thank you, Council. The 2025 CAP monitoring report is very comprehensive, but rather than approve this report, the Council should just acknowledge it or accept it. At a previous Council meeting, Councilman Schaefer asked an important question: how do we monitor the results? Theoretically, this monitoring report would provide the answer. The CAP estimates that transportation fuel will be saved with bike and pedestrian improvements, roundabouts, and commuting programs. The implementation is proceeding, but how is the benefit determined? Traffic congestion does not appear to be improving. Just because the program was completed and the resources were spent does not prove that the estimated benefits were attained. There are numerous requirements mandated for homeowners, businesses, contractors. The CAP forces things to be done that economic analysis wouldn't justify on itself. If they did, we wouldn't have to make it a requirement. The actual benefits cannot be calculated because there is no bubble around Encinitas that measures emissions before and after. Again, just because the program was implemented and the cost incurred does not prove that the benefits were realized. Could I have slide 1, please? The Encinitas Climate Action Plan is designed to reduce carbon dioxide by approximately 202,000 metric tons by the year 2030. This costs us $12 million. The implication is that we are saving the world from climate change, or at least doing our part. Let me try to show you how misguided this is. China signed the Kyoto Protocols, and they went into effect in 2005. Since then, China has constructed 2,526 coal-burning electric generating units with an average capacity of 500 megawatt hours for each unit. Just one of these units, operating for only 20 days, will add more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere than the Encinitas CAP hopes to reduce over 12 years. Other countries in Asia, Africa, and South America are also increasing fossil fuel resources. No wonder that CO2 concentrations worldwide continue to rise unabated. If China's not changed their direction in over 20 years, maybe it's time to become realistic and do what makes sense for Encinitas. It's difficult for the Climate Action Plan proponents to accept that they are not really saving the world, which, if true, might make them feel good. But we should ask, who in Encinitas is the Climate Action Plan really helping? Thank you.
Well, my husband had some bad news, but I've got some good news for you. The climate has always changed. There have been ice ages occurring and receding in cyclic patterns over millions of years. What is now Chicago used to have a half a mile of ice underneath it. Dinosaur bones have been discovered in the Yukon, which was once tropical. More recently, the Earth had the Little Ice Age from 1400 to 1800 AD. And since then, the Earth has been a warming trend with many year-to-year variations. Basically, the Earth's atmosphere cycles are somewhat self-sustaining. Once that warming trend begins, the planet is reduced snow and ice coverage. Because the sun's rays are reflected by snow and ice, there is less coverage, which means that the Earth absorbs more heat from the sun. And then this melts and more ice, and the trend continues. Could you put up exhibit number 2, please? Atmospheric carbon dioxide has increased about 50%. The other one is number 2. This is still a very small component of the atmosphere, as you see on this chart. Actually, the nitrogen and oxygen makes up 99% of the Earth's atmosphere. Note the carbon dioxide is 0.04%. This is a very small component of the atmosphere that's shown on this chart, and the most significant greenhouse gas is actually water vapor, which is roughly 10 times the concentration of carbon dioxide. Computer climate models ignore water vapor because clouds are very difficult to model. Climate models ignore several components, such as variations in the sun activity and in ocean currents. They have no more reliable financial models, which we know of, that are frequently wrong. Number 3 this time. Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. It doesn't cause smog. We use carbon dioxide to carbonate our beer, our soda, soft drinks, our champagne. Dry ice is just frozen carbon dioxide. Plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to grow, and without all of these components, the Earth would be a dead planet. Studies clearly demonstrate that increased levels of carbon dioxide increase the rate of plant growth and make plants more resistant to droughts. The benefits of increased carbon dioxide are shown in this satellite photo on the Earth in the exhibit. And the reason for this greening was a slightly warmer climate and increased carbon dioxide, and that's demonstrated from 1982 to 2015. Thank you.
You have to hold it.
You gotta hold it.
And then it'll kick in.
There it goes. Oh, there we go. That's fine. Good job, Mom and Dad. So I'm Stace Luget. I grew up here. One of the questions is warmer better? On a yearly basis, about 9 times more people die from cold than they do from warmth. When people retire, they retire down to the southern states, not to the northern states, right? Like we all know this, warmer is better. When you get to wildfires, and if you could move it up a little bit so you can get the lower graph. When you get to wildfires, in the 1930s, there was about 5 times as much acreage burned as presently. And the reason has been that there's been more aggressive firefighting techniques, and unburned areas have increased a buildup in fuel. So this makes the fires more intense and more difficult to control. Many of things have changed over a century, and these correlations are relatively meaningless of an increased temperature to a wildfire. That's one. If you can go to sea level, exhibit 5. As glaciers melt, sea levels rise. But these changes are relatively minor. Another 6 inches rise over the next 100 years, thank you, is not likely to be a danger to any of us. We all need to take a deep breath and realize that we're not facing a real threat. Obama bought a house, a beachfront home in Martha's Vineyard. Bill Gates bought a house right at sea level down in Del Mar. This is real estate, long-term real estate investments that they've made. They don't seem too concerned. If these proponents of climate disasters are not concerned, then maybe we shouldn't worry either. So what should Encinitas do? We need to transition from a climate action plan to an environmental plan. I was an environmental studies major up at Santa Barbara. So I've been through a lot of this and been through a lot of the activism and what's real and what's not. In business, everybody knows that you cannot manage what you cannot measure. So measuring that climate action plan is really, really key, and I think it's very difficult to do. Here's the plan. The plan should have two tenets. It should actually have benefits for people of Encinitas. And secondly, it should have those costs and benefits should be measured through tangible items like recycling things or beach cleanup, actual volume, something that we can actually see and measure, but the atmosphere is probably not it. Thank you very much.
Final two speakers, Patty Stottlemyre, followed by Stephen Lord.
Thank you, Warren. Council and Mayor, from the staff report, the report is tracking implementation progress on the adopted 2020 Climate Action Plan. Ooh, which one do I use? This one? Oh, yeah, okay. The 2020 Climate Action Plan, although a tremendous work well done, is already outdated and should be scratched, except for incentivized water-saving devices. There is no requirement by the state for cities to have a climate action plan, and other cities do not have any. Therefore, I ask you to acknowledge the report but not approve. And there's a global network of over 2,000 scientists and professionals that has prepared this urgent message. The World Climate Declaration. There is no climate emergency. And they also say climate science should be less political, while climate policy should be more scientific. The New York Times are saying Democrats once vowed to stop oil and gas. Now they're not so sure. And the most recent example came in California, where Tom Steyer was edged out of the gubernatorial primary by Mr. Becerra, who questioned the state's most stringent climate goals, like ending sales of new gas-powered cars by 2035, and received donations from oil and gas companies. And Senator Gallego of Arizona, he said he and many other Democrats aren't discussing climate change during the midterm election season because we want to win. Across the Northeast, Democrat governors have started to consider gas pipeline expansions. And a recent poll of The Economist showed that 29%, only 5% of Americans say climate change is their top issue, while 29% say their top priority is inflation, prices, jobs, and the economy. So Democrats and environmentalists are shifting their approach to climate change as the economic fallout from the war in the Middle East has reshuffled the policies of energy. So instead of spending all this time and money on net zero, let's spend some time and money on victory gardens. Not victory of war, but victory of self-sufficiency, which will most likely be needed in the not-so-distant future. And those gardens will need their plant food, CO2. Please, no more money for consultants pushing UN Agenda 2030. Let's reclaim our local sovereignty. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration.
Stephen?
Hi, welcome back. I have a simple message, common sense. let's look at this report. If there's any ideas in there that are worth doing, let's do them. The CO2 effect is pretty obvious, is negligible. But I believe that there's probably some benefit to putting solar panels on city structures and using that electricity for the city. The city mostly uses air conditioning during the daytime, which is when the sun shines, so they can probably get a benefit from that. And if we can reduce utility costs at the city, then we got more money to spend on other things like fixing the flooding in Leucadia and having more Doggy Day celebrations, because that was actually a lot of fun. And I believe we have an August 3rd celebration coming up. So I would like us to sort of forget about the climate action plan, and as people suggest, to accept it. But if there are any good ideas in it that the council can see, like the solar panel idea, if it pans out, we should just do that. Thank you.
That concludes speakers on this item.
Okay, with that, Councilmember Lyons.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to say that some of you know that before I have served here on City Council, that I served 2 terms on the Environmental Commission. So that goes back to almost 12 years ago that I was appointed to that role. And in that time on the Environmental Commission is when we heard all the public comment on our CAP, on our Climate Action Plan. There's a lot of passion behind us really stepping up and doing a good job for our community and reducing our greenhouse gases. Hands down, from that experience, I will report that the majority of our community does support our Climate Action Plan, and they have ever since it was first approved. I think this report demonstrates that we're making clear progress. Thank you. It's well done. I think that our community has voted for several decades to do our part in reducing greenhouse gases. And I think that's reasonable. What is our part and what can we do? And that's what our community wants to do. They want to step up because I believe something, and I believe our community also believes this, and that is that we're only as healthy as our environment. You know, decades and decades ago, smog over LA, not clean water. You know, some of us are old enough to remember that. We are doing our part to make our Encinitas community healthy. And our Climate Action Plan is helping us meet those goals and measure them. So we have experts on staff. Thank you. I think that you've continuously done a stellar job to be responsive to us on City Council and responsive to the community, and also bring forward really smart and effective Climate Action Plan strategies. So this is only a monitoring report that we have on the agenda under consent. It's a very small item, not meant to question whether we have a Climate Action Plan or not. This is just a monitoring report. We will have a special meeting in September for our Climate Action Plan, and for those who would like to discuss our Climate Action Plan in more detail, I think that would be the venue for it. So stay tuned to that opportunity. So given that this is a monitoring report, and it's just really documenting what's our status right now, and this would be informative to us as we evaluate our Climate Action Plan in the near future, I'd like to approve this monitoring report, and I'll move the recommended action.
Okay, I'll hop in next. One thing that we had a very thorough discussion about the Climate Action Plan before, and one of the goals that, a main goal that this council put forward was we wanted financial metrics added to it. And that's what is coming back in September. So to some degree, this is a little premature to make recommendations off of where the progress we've made. It's good to have a status report, but then to go and make recommendations when we don't have the financial numbers finalized in front of us. In particular, I wasn't surprised when we went through our preliminary review. We found that, I'll ask again, how many people know how many of our buildings in Encinitas have solar on the roof? 1. This building, when was it done? 2008. Not in the last almost, 18 years? Pretty long time. That money invested in that solar on all the other buildings would have paid off 3 or 4 or 5 times. We could have taken that same capital, put it back in, and be saving money. So what I want to be very careful tonight is if we adopt this and we make recommendations, are we doing things that make sense financially? I think that solar on the roof of the community center, we're going to save money. We're going to pay that off probably in 5 or 6 years, somewhere 7 years. You know, it will not take long. And we would be saving operational costs for this city. That's a good thing. I can say yes to that right now. But I want to have the climate action plan with all its different goals. There was one goal in there that cost $17,000 per equivalent metric ton. We have a goal of reducing by 200 and some odd thousand metric tons. We're not going to be able to afford $17,000 a metric ton. And that is the primary purpose. Reducing the greenhouse gas emissions is the primary goal of the climate action plan. So I think it is a little premature here to go forward with that and approve any recommendations. I'm fine with accepting the status report. I think it's great. I appreciate that we did it. I appreciate the staff work that went into it. But I'm looking forward to September when we get into having the updated cap that we can make proper recommendations based on a financial model too. The city has limited financial resources, as we all know. I want to make sure we're very good fiduciary stewards of that money. So I'll do a substitute motion that we accept this report and offer that. With that, I'll yield to Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
Okay, and as I get started, I just want to say that I think the residents who came out today weren't saying they don't care about the environment. I think quite the opposite. They were saying they care very much about the environment, and that's why they're here, looking for us to do what they believe to be the right thing. I've spoken to everybody in the city too, and I feel like that's a pretty good representation of how a lot of people in the city feel. This is a very disputable conversation in the science world and the environmental world. But I would say we talk up here like this is a mandatory document, and it's not. Less than 50% of the cities in California have a cap because it's not a mandatory document. And so I think that's a really important piece. This is not a document that is required. The standards aren't even 100% clear. You set the goals and you go for it. That said, I do believe it's really great for us to do what we can to affect an environmental issue in a positive way. There are a lot of problems with this. Obviously, the fact that you can't measure any tangible results on it, you can't go back and forward. But I think something that's missing from the conversation, additionally beyond the fact of whether there's even a required document, is missing from our conversation quite often is the increase in cost of living that a document like this requires. And we're up here constantly. We had a person up here earlier talking about making affordable housing. Well, this cap makes it more expensive to build homes. Everything about it does. So it is very important not only for the city's fiscal interests, but for our residents' interests that we decide what on here, or we look, have the information to figure out what is the pass-through to our residents who are going to feel the impacts of this, because we have all of us up here very concerned, and everyone sitting in these seats out here very concerned about the cost of living. And a lot of these don't necessarily feel like they acknowledge that, which is a really hard thing to do. So I would go back and I would mention, I think this is I think we should go back to having an environmental measure. I think it should talk about things like our reefs, cleaning our reefs and restoring them. Those are things our residents can enjoy. They move here to enjoy. They can see the impact. They know where the money is going. They know where the result is going, and they personally enjoy it. And it is, in fact, good for the environment and will affect, if this is your concern, the air. It will affect the air quality because healthy reefs help with healthy air. Waterway management is not mentioned in this document at all. We are not managing how the water gets to the ocean and whether it's clean or not. These are as big as, to me, whether the ocean is clean is just as important as the CO2 in the air. Especially all our residents use the ocean. So I see that missing on here. Sand on the beach. If we can spend $1 million here, but we don't know if it works, we can spend $1 million on the beach, and we know our residents want sand on the beach. We know our residents want to use the beach. We get an impact, return on investment on that sand. It is desperately needed. Plant projects, things are coming up. We could have gardens around town. Later on tonight, we're going to have a discussion about whether or not we're going to plant trees in the city in a certain location to scrub the air and scrub the noise. Those are all things we should be looking at, not simply what are we doing to CO2, because that is not the entire environmental impact, and it's not going to get us the result that the residents can really be proud of. So I'm going to second the mayor's motion if he'll accept in addition. I would like to see an inclusion of some environmental measures the city can also take, whether they want to change the name from CAP to environmental CAP, staff can figure that out. And I'd like to see included the cost to residents, the cost of living increases that these measures will affect, not just the cost to do them. Because right now we have implementation costs on these studies we're getting back, but we don't have the true, clear cost of living impact.
Although it's included in the, let me clarify what he's asking. When we talk in September on the Climate Action Plan review, it is help me with the term, the total cost that we talked about.
Cost-benefit analysis.
Right. But there was cost-benefit analysis, and there was the opportunity. I can't remember the name now. I'll remember it in September but it was basically the entire cost to, I always said like the economy, which included the individual homeowner, and included the cost to the city or to the government. And I think what you're asking is breaking it out so individual homeowners know.
Individual homeowners.
Or not even the homeowners, residents.
And current, this is a document based on when was this, 2020?
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
So technology for all of this stuff is way different than it used to be in cost to do it.
I just want to be careful. We're not going beyond what this item tonight is just an update, a status update on the Climate Action Plan.
Yes.
Included in this document were some recommendations that I feel are premature until we get to the September discussion with the Climate Action Plan update that has the cost analysis, but may not have the individual resident component broken out cleanly. And I think that's what you're asking for in your
Yes.
action. Okay. I'm okay with that, but I would say we accept this, and then we can do the recommendations September or whatever date it would be in September. And so I'm bifurcating what the
Sure, I'll accept that. I mean, staff has heard me, and hopefully they'll come back with some environmental measures on all this too at this time, because this is not the first time it's been mentioned up here. It still hasn't come forward, and you know.
Okay.
When is it coming forward? If it's not
I'm going to
coming
let the
forward,
city manager hop in, then Councilmember Schaefer.
No, thank you, Mayor. That was just a clarification. As I was talking to the city attorney, we just need to make sure that the motion is for what's agendized tonight. But absolutely in September, when that comes back, that's the proper time. Thank you.
And that's kind of where I was going anyway, is I want to thank the Leger family, Patty Stottlemyre and Stephen, for speaking. I think Encinitas is uniquely positioned and very, very, very always concerned about our environment. We started that way, and I think we're all still that way. So I would recommend just what the mayor just said. This tonight is about the monitoring of what the report has done. I would highly recommend that we get in contact with Crystal or any of the staff to have a conversation, because I think all of the ideas, the Victory Gardens is phenomenal. That you go through all of Central Asia, you see gardens everywhere. Every family has a garden. They eat out of their garden. I think that's the direction that a lot of Encinidians would want to go. But that's something I think we need to talk about further on, and tonight's not that night. So staff, thank you for the annual report and the work that you've done off of the 2020 plan. I do think there's room for improvement, just like anything. But we do need to get to a place where we can measure some kind of valid benefits other than just CO2 that, again, was highlighted pretty easily that we don't get to measure that. So there's got to be other ways that this is incorporated. I said it back then, I think it was May, but whatever we spend on it is valuable for our environment. I don't know if it's exactly what we're spending on is right, but I would continue to always say that this city needs to continue to spend a certain amount of money, tithing, if you will, again, like Councilmember Lyons said, our environment. Without our environment, none of us get to live. So I highly recommend that we get the Leger family and anybody else that spoke some way, somehow, if not that night, ideally before that night, because that's when it's going to be coming through. So sometime here in the late August, early September would be ideal to set up a meeting. So again, thank you.
Councilmember San Antonio.
I just want to say that there has been some real progress with the cap. I mean, let's see, residential EV infrastructure already surpassed its 2030 target. Municipal fleet gasoline down 58%. Countywide water use caps 2030 target. It beat it here in 2025. So stuff is actually we are making progress. But I think also I think when you think about it, it's like make a difference where you can. Not to toot my own. I think Stace said it. It's like you do what you can. If there's a beach cleanup or whatnot, it's like you make a difference. It's not always going to be, this overarching thing, but pick up a piece of trash. Not to toot my own horn, I do freeway cleanups. So 4 miles of freeway I clean up, and I can pick up on any random month between 4 bags to 12 bags, and these bags are huge. They're big Adopt a Highway bags. So you can do a lot of work. I mean, if that was 2 hours for each 2 miles, and it's a lot, but it makes a difference. So, I mean, I think to what Stace said, it may not always be something that is this big thing, but the small things turn into something big. But again, the climate, I mean, what we use here, like the beach, the water, I'm at the beach constantly with my kids. We fish probably 3 times a week. They love it. But we spend time in the ocean. We spend time in our waterways. And I know we concentrate on the CO2, but the water for me is a huge deal. I think Deputy Mayor said it. We use our beaches. People come here to see our beaches. People constantly talk about being in Encinitas and loving it and loving to be by the ocean. But I don't want to say that this cap is not doing its job, because clearly it is measurable, but I think for every major investment that the council does, we do need to know the total cost, outside funding, operating costs. All of that is very important to all the decisions we make up here. So I appreciate all the hard work. Thank you.
So I'll hop in again. Tonight we're talking about the Climate Action Plan, so I won't try and go into a discussion. I've talked in the past about having an environmental element component to our general plan, and I'd love to agendize that in the future. And I think somebody used the term environmental action plan. That may be the outcome of that, is in parallel with the Climate Action Plan, you have an environmental action plan that looks at bigger, broader savings and their costs, of course. So I want to make it clear, we're not saying no to the cap. I know that's how it'll probably get reported by some people out there, but we are saying it's not appropriate until we get the updated cap to go and adopt recommendations, and we're going to do that, it sounds like, next month. So with that, I'll move on to Councilmember Lyons.
I'd just like to say a few additional things after hearing my colleagues. So this is kind of to have some dialogue back with my colleagues to let the public know what my thoughts are, and for staff. I hear you saying that the Climate Action Plan should morph into something else, but I do want to remind us that we already have, as part of our general plan, our resource management and conservation element. And that's a really strong and meaningful element that we're currently updating. We have a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities there to make that natural resource element as rigorous as a CAP, measurable, just like the Climate Action Plan. I wouldn't want to go the other direction where we go away from measurable, and I don't hear anyone saying that, but I do hear a subtext of, well, maybe we don't need the Climate Action Plan. I think we do need it, and I think that it makes our natural resource management and conservation element even stronger. It's a really strong component of it, and it's rigorous and it goes hand in hand with it. So
I think the thoughts are evolving, so I'm glad to hear that, and I'm always glad to hear the public comment from our citizens. But I do want to remind us that it is a very strong component of our natural resource management and conservation element, which we already have. And so when we consider what we need in the future, I just encourage us to take inventory here of what we already have and what is it that we really want. If we want to measure things better and really feel like we know what we're doing and the value of all the actions we're taking, then that's great. But I would say don't diminish the climate action plan along the way. I'll rest.
Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
Sure. I think we are quite often in a space where we have to project a hard yes or hard no on issues that aren't clear. They're more in the gray area. So I don't think anybody's saying they want to get rid of the cap altogether. I think we always say we want to look at what on it makes sense, what works, what doesn't work, what makes sense to committing the residents to, what outcomes we can come up with and measure. Everybody wants to make this place the best they can. There's also a management of resource allocation to it. There's also a question of, this is really deep in VMTs, and we're doing VMTs, and if we're doing VMTs, we're focusing on that because of the exhaust of the vehicles, yet we're working towards all electric vehicles, which will have no exhaust. So it kind of contradicts itself at times. And I think we need to sit back and look at these things of like, well, where are we really going with this? What's our point? Let's do as much as we can. That makes sense. And I think it's missing something. And I just think, I'm sitting here and I'm repeating myself here, but if we don't start talking about environment every time this cap comes up, we'll never get anything going with the environmental plan. And so I'm reiterating it. I think we need some of the environment here. Maybe this is the time to say it, maybe it's not. But when? Because we've talked about it before. We're talking about it again. Our residents want us to do something with it. They've been here before. They're here again. They'll be here in September. And we'll talk about it in September, and then it'll be some date way out in the future. When? It's a simple question. So it's not a hard yes, it's not a hard no. It's let's look at the data and see what it looks like and what makes sense.
So we can agendize it.
Yep.
So I'll hop in. Looks like I'm the last one. First of all, I heard my words get maybe morphed a little. I did not say morphing the climate action plan into the EAP. I said climate action in parallel with the EAP, just to be clear. Did not say anything about diminishing it, so just so that's clear. Somebody brought up EV purchases. Remember that we do not get credit on our cap for EV purchases our citizens make. The state takes that. And if any question, ask Sandag. They're the ones that do the modeling. They're the ones that understand the rules. So it's a shame because we would, according to the director of planning at Sandag, we would easily meet our climate goals if we could take credit for the EV purchases and the conversion to EV, which is a market-driven, cost-based changeover to non-fossil fuel. It's great. That's how the world works, market-based. But we, under this cap, do not get credit for that. I'll close with, I thought the climate action plan discussion we had, and Crystal, you had some great plots showing the greenhouse gas and what we get credit for, what we don't get credit for. What date was that on in case people listening tonight want to go and watch that?
It was May 27th, 2026.
May 27th, 2026. That's worth going to watch that item. If you've got an interest in this, I think we really got to the heart of it. And then we'll continue that discussion in September. We don't have a date certain yet, but watch closely and we'll get there. So with that, I think we got a motion and a second. I'm going to have the clerk read it back because there was some tweaking in there.
Sure. Just for clarification, the original motion by Councilmember Lyons failed for a lack of a second. The next motion was by Councilmember Ehlers, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Hara to accept the 2025 Climate Action Plan Monitoring Report.
Wasn't there?
With the individual costs brought back.
Yeah, with when we come back on the 23rd, having the cost to residents broken out as a component of the overall cost so that there was some estimate of what it does to cost of living in Encinitas.
Okay.
I think, isn't that it? Okay.
And again, we're either looking at September 16th or September 23rd.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Let's call the question.
That motion carries 4-1 with Councilmember Lyons voting no, and takes us to item 8I.
Okay. And how many people pulled that?
We have one speaker. Did you want a staff report for this item? Okay.
You want the staff report? Okay. So we'll do the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Elena Steller, and I'm an engineer at the CIP department. We are here to present item 8I, the design immunity of the fiscal year 26-27 drainage rehabilitation project and the Lake Drive storm drain repair project. The recommended actions is to approve the design package and to authorize the advertisement of the fiscal year drainage rehabilitation project and the Lake Drive storm drain lining. If action is approved tonight, staff will be advertising the project for bid and will return to council to award a construction contract at a future date. Thank you for your time, and we are here for questions.
Okay. Any questions of clarification? Otherwise, we'll hear from public. Okay.
Fabian, you're up.
Cut off.
I'm not nearly that tall. Come on, guys. Fabian Goodell, Village Park. I support item 8I. It's a good start, but it's only a start, and it's pretty apparent that we're continuing to fall further behind on storm drain rehabilitation every year. This report makes clear that even now, months before the ongoing RIC assessment will be finished and brought to this council, we have already identified more pipes with urgent needs than we have allocated money to reline. Indeed, the report mentions there's an ongoing risk-based list of poor condition pipes behind this project without saying how long that list is, which is worrying. The math doesn't look that good either. The city maintains roughly 65 miles of storm drain type. This project lines about 1,200 feet of it and replaces another 70 feet, a quarter of a mile in total. If all 4 additive alternatives are awarded, 4/10 of a mile. That's between 1/3 and 2/3 of 1% of the network in a year. By comparison, the current paving program for this year covers about 13 centerline miles out of 168, or about 8%. So we're treating our streets at a rate of 10 times at least that we're treating our sewer pipes. And if we're losing ground on streets, which we are at the current funding levels this council approved, deferred maintenance is going up on streets, then it's almost certain that we're falling behind on pipes as well. The fiscal year 25-26 works plan that you guys put together had an objective, 2.3A, to inspect the system and to plan and budget to line all the corrugated metal pipe within 5 years. You funded the inspection of the system, to your credit. Absolutely fantastic, 100% the right thing to you, credit to staff. But the remaining part of the objective, budgeting the rehabilitation of the pipe over the next 5 years, 4 years now, has disappeared from the current work plan. It's just not there. The assessment that's coming is really unlikely to bring good news. I don't think anybody expects it to bring good news. It will bring more certainty, and it is going to highlight the need to address pipe maintenance once and for all. It's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be easy. And leadership demands that you start preparing the city for the choices that we're going to have to make. Thank you.
That concludes speakers on this item.
Okay, I'll hop in. I was going to pull this item anyways. I see this a little differently than maybe Fabian does, because you did exactly what we were looking for. Exactly, and I think even better than I'd hoped. It's about, 12 to 18 months it's taking to do the inspection, and I'll give you a chance to speak. And I think you told me you were about 60% of the way through the video inspection of 100% of our storm drains. Something that's never been done, that should have been done 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago. I'm so glad we spent the $800,000, or are spending the $800,000 to do this. And then we went a step further when we gave direction. We said, hey, if you see really bad segments, bring a laundry list. We're ready to fund it, and we're going to. What wasn't in the speaker's analysis is we also have approved so far by the federal government, FEMA reimbursement to the tune of $2.6 million for the Lake Drive and other failures, storm drain failures. And so right now it's in the Office of Emergency Management at the state. Not for approval, it just hasn't gotten out of there to get paid to us. But at mid-year budget, when we hopefully have that, we will be making a decision on what needs funding here. And we may make decisions before that. So we are exactly where I'd hoped to be. In fact, you did precisely what we as a council asked. So I thought this was an example of proactive, basic infrastructure first, figuring out what's not been happening and get ahead, or at least get a plan to move ahead on basic infrastructure that had been deferred maintenance for too many years. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. I think you did exactly what I wanted. Councilmember Schaefer.
I just wanted to echo that. I think that everything that we've been going after, and the big thing is, why didn't the last 20 years do it, and have been doing it? And even in down in Leucadia, there was a pipe leak just the other night underneath the exact same street that we're repaving right now and doing the repiping at the North Leucadia. And one of the residents, I just talked to him yesterday, said, why didn't we replace that pipe? Well, they pulled the pipe out and they showed him, and it said on the side 1935. That's SDG&E. So the fact of the matter is we're doing it long before anybody's coming to do it on their own. And this is the first time in basically in the city's history that anybody's doing it. So I don't really get the complaint. But Dan, do you have anything to add to this? Anything that you wanted to add to your side of the equation?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I do want to give a kudos to staff up here doing an absolute bang-up job getting this condition assessment and 10-year CIP completed for council and the community. And this project in particular, getting a set of plans designed in roughly a month and a half is just astronomical. So really kudos to them. I do want to remind council and the public, we do have a 5-year CIP as part of the FY27 work plan. We will be proposing a budget line item for storm drain maintenance, and that will be in part based on the findings and the conclusion of this report. I don't think it's news to anyone that there are a lot of storm drain needs. That's a fact of the matter. You know, I and our team appreciate that we had $1.1 million budgeted by council this year, which was about $600,000 more than the previous year to help ensure we're able to line as much pipe as possible. So yeah, team is doing great. We appreciate the support from council and the community.
Thanks, Dan. And so what I was told in my brief, that we have this super El Nino that everybody keeps talking about, and this is inherently getting this done now could get us in front of that, not for the entire city because that's just what we were handed, but we can get in front of it for the future and for what the big stuff coming forward, so we can put trucks other places and really start to help the city as we go through whatever this is going to be, 1,000-year storm, 10,000-year storm, whatever they're going to make it be. But we're trying to get ahead of it as fast as possible, and I think that the city and the staff.
And one thing I would like, if council has a couple seconds, we have a few slides. In the last 30 minutes, we just wanted to put a couple pictures together just so council in the audience sees some of the degradation of pipe that we've got. So Elaine, if you just want to throw that on. And I'll just quickly click through some of these. So this is a complete longitudinal void in a corrugated metal pipe. Another longitudinal void. We've got pipe separation. This is a longitudinal void on, I think, the side of the pipe. Here's a complete hole or void in the bottom of the pipe. So just a couple quick ones I wanted to pull just to be able to provide council and the public so you guys get a little bit of an idea of what we're already finding.
Council, Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
Sure, I just wanted to put a couple of numbers out there. This year, it's $1.8 million for drainage, $3.5 million in capital allocation, which that is part of, that the city is spending. In 2023, we spent in the low six figures. So we have, in my estimates, we're doing 5 times more, committing 5 times more resources to it, to our residents. I'm glad this got brought up. This morning, I was running in Solana Beach. I get stopped by a person, "Hey, Mr. O'Hara," and usually it's like, yeah. And, "Hey, are you guys out looking at the pipes in my neighborhood?" I'm like, "I don't know. Where do you live?" I live in Leucadia. "Yeah, we are. We're gonna go through and go through all the pipes, assess them, and fix." Thank you. I've never seen anybody do that ever. I've lived there 20 years. They're like, it's amazing. We're so thankful. And that's on you guys. You guys are the ones out doing it. So thank you for this hard work, putting this together. And I'm glad it got brought up and get a chance to tell you how appreciative we are of your hard work. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, motion to
just say
approve.
yes. Okay.
Yes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. And just one last question about the void in the bottom. Can you still line that with that big of a void as long as the dirt's still there and hasn't washed away?
Yeah, so this particular void, I don't have an issue with us lining through it because the liner is likely to be powerful enough to go straight through and not down. If we had a longer void, just how the liner process works, there's a likelihood that the liner would find its way to angle down. That is a 90-degree void, no real issue lining there, which is great because that price saves the city about $50,000.
Yeah. And in my recollection, it costs about twice as much to dig up a pipe as repair it this way, but the life is about the same.
It can be 4, 5, 10 times as much to dig up a pipe and replace it than line, depending on the situation. Absolutely, your knowledge of the same lifespan of a pipe liner versus a new pipe, that's accurate. So there's pipe liner is somewhat new over the last 30 years, and 30-year-old pipe liner is still looking great. So it's really a really good bang for our buck here as public servants.
So it actually saves us money to get ahead of this and before they collapse. And you can selectively, where if they collapse in one short section, you can go in and replace that pipe and line right through that later and save the money on all the other, bigger reaches or bigger lengths.
That's exactly correct. So if we just have one point repair that's needed, that really helps. We can make that repair, we can line through it, and save a lot of money and get more pipe lined.
Okay, cool. Thank you. With that, we have a motion and a second. I don't think I need it read back.
That motion carries unanimously and takes us to item 10A.
Okay. Let me find. Okay, item 10A is council to hear from applicants and make one appointment to the Commission for the Arts. And it would be the city clerk.
Good evening, City Council and members of the public. The report before you tonight is to make an appointment to the Commission for the Arts. I will note that Commissioner Cote resigned June 1st, And at the time of the agenda posting, we did have 4 eligible applicants. However, within the last couple days, we did have 2 withdraw. So the applicants here tonight before you that are eligible, that are still in the running, are James Exley and Mel Mager. And I'll go ahead and call James first.
Hello, commissioners and mayor. Thank you for the timer. I have a tendency to ramble, so I'll try and fit this in, but feel free to cut me off. Like I said, my name is James Exley. I've been living here in Leucadia since 2019, but I've been coming down and surfing in Encinitas since the early 2000s. I'm interested in serving the city on the Commission for the Arts because creativity and the arts have had a massive impact on my entire life. I was raised on the east coast of Florida by 2 loving parents who were economically and resource-wise very limited in a small town that also had very limited resources. So it wasn't until I went to college in Chicago that I got to engage with and encounter the creative arts in a meaningful way. And that impacted my life so much that I have spent my entire adult life working in the creative arts. I was a commercial photographer for many, many years. Post the pandemic, I actually transitioned to the global agency side as an executive producer for live action. So in that role, I wasn't creative, but I was handling budgets that ranged anywhere from the low hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars and delivered every project on time and on budget. In a personal level, in 2020, when there was a lot of chaos in this country, I spent 4 months and drove 15,000 miles around the United States documenting what was truly a really unique time in our amazing country's history. And 4 years after that, in 2024, I spent over a month of my own time and labor and money, and I converted the shop front on the corner of Leucadia and Coast Highway that had been sitting empty as Rooster Ramen for forever. I turned that into a pop-up art gallery to feature that show. It felt like the right time to show that work. And I did that because I grew up in a small town that didn't have a lot of art galleries and resources like that. And it's a little bit self-serving to do that for my own artwork, but it was also to give something back to the community that I love that I didn't have when I was growing up. As a final thing, I will say, I think you guys know more than anybody that the limitations of words are very real. As a community, we run into that all the time. But I believe really firmly that art and creativity is a space that actually bridges a gap where words can't really bring us together in certain ways, but they can pull us together. So with all that in mind, I'm interested in serving the city on the Commission for the Arts. Thank you for your time.
Final applicant, Mel Mager, are you here?
Is she here?
I don't see her, so that would conclude.
You know what she looks like, or?
Yeah. That concludes the applicants for this item.
Okay. Had she planned on being here? Do we know?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Give her 30 seconds in case she is listening somewhere. Not calling in.
Definitely not calling in.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this is usual, or how do you pick? And I guess we're down to 2, if I understood correctly. 2 withdrew. So
Yes, Heidi and Adriana withdrew this week.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, and as usual, it's everybody is qualified, very qualified, maybe overqualified, and I don't know. I can go back and forth. I was actually hoping to hear from both of them to really understand, get a better idea of what they want to do. So I think I'm going to make an audible here, and I'm going to go with James because the one thing you didn't talk about, I wish you talked more about, is your art. But when you mentioned, that was my only concern about you, is that I didn't see the art portion other than commercial graphic and producing, and a lot of great talents there. But the fact you opened a pop-up art gallery, even though it was for yours, I appreciate the fact that it was your art. So I'll make a motion to appoint James to the Art Commission. I got a second on that. What did you looking for James's resume or? and either one of these people could serve here easily, are qualified. I like your energy too. So I was really looking forward to hearing both and helping me make my decision up here. This is the hardest part about being mayor, I swear, is trying to make these choices of who you put on commissions. So I've got a motion and a second. Do I have any, Councilmember San Antonio, you wanted to speak?
I'll just say that I actually know James personally. He's a regular at the coffee shop.
I
next
just
door.
changed my mind. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I attended his art show. He's talked to him quite a bit daily. So he is very pragmatic and definitely he loves art, and that is what he talks about. I've known people that have worked for him. I've known people that have worked with him, and he is. This definitely is. This is what he does. Art is his life. So.
Anybody else? Deputy Mayor? You good?
I have curiosity questions. I guess I'll meet with him after.
Okay. So, okay, I got a motion and a second. Any issues that, will Councilmember Lyons be able to vote? We may have to do a roll call. Do you want us just to do a roll call? No. Okay. We got a motion and a second. Call the question. Cool.
That motion carries unanimously and takes us to item 10B.
Thank you. Welcome on board. Okay, item 10B. Item 10B is a public hearing. So we have a special, more complete procedure where we will have a staff report given. I will ask the council to disclose any other information that they have received that is not included in the staff report. We'll then have preliminary questions, and then I will open the public hearing. We'll listen to the speakers. I will then close the public hearing, and we will go on to council discussions and action. So this item is item 10B, which is a public hearing to consider the introduction of ordinance number 2026-10 to adopt Chapter 30.21, residential in commercial zones pursuant to state law, to Title 30 zoning of the Encinitas Municipal Code to implement AB 2011 and SB 6 citywide and amendments to the downtown Encinitas and North 101 corridor specific plans to reference and incorporate objective design standards. And the contact person is Senior Planner Cadona. With that, we'll start with the staff report.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Sarah Cadona, Senior Planner with the City of Encinitas and Project Manager for this work effort. So starting with some introductions. So from the city, we have myself, Sarah Cadona, and Scott Drapkin, Director of Development Services. And from the consultant team, we have Matt Gelbman, Senior Urban Planner with Ascent. And a little fun fact is Matt did grow up in Encinitas, so he has been able to bring valuable local knowledge and perspective while working on this project. So in June of 2023, the City Council and Planning Commission held a joint study session to discuss AB 2011 and SB 6. And at that study session, the City Council directed staff to return with an initiation. Then in August of 23, the City Council approved an initiation to amend the municipal code and local coastal program for a citywide AB 2011 and SB 6 implementing ordinance and objective design standards for both the downtown Encinitas and North 101 corridor specific plans. Additionally, in August of 23, the City Council approved the grant application for the Sandag HAP Cycle 2 grant, which is funded by HCD's REAP 2.0 program. Then in October of 23, the city received notification that the full grant funding request was awarded, and the city received a total of $573,000 with $329,000 allocated for the AB 2011 SB 6 work effort. HCD's grant funding is fully covering the costs of the consultant to complete this work. Then in September of 2024, the City Council executed a professional services agreement with Ascent. So now let's go over some details about the grant. So the city received a total of $32,145 from HTD's REAP 2.0 program. The grant deadline is August 31st, which is at the end of this month, to complete the scope of work and utilize our consultant. The purpose of the grant is to establish local procedures through a citywide implementing ordinance and develop objective design standards to regulate projects utilizing state housing laws. And for projects to qualify for the grant, projects must be in a mobility hub, transit priority area, or low VMT, vehicle miles traveled area, and must support infill development, increase housing supply and affordability, reduce VMT, further fair housing, and include community engagement. At the time of the grant application, only the downtown Encinitas and North 101 corridor specific plan areas had met the qualifying criteria of the grant and had the highest concentration of potentially eligible sites for AB 2011 and SB 6. State law requires that a city can only apply objective standards when reviewing AB 2011 SB 6 projects to which the existing downtown Encinitas and North 101 corridor specific plans are outdated and do not include the necessary objective design standards to preserve the community character to the extent feasible under state law. So staff and the consultant team have been working to interpret these complex housing bills and determine the potential impacts to Encinitas. The city hosted a total of 4 public outreach events. The first event was a community-wide workshop that took place in April of 2025, and this is where staff provided an overview of the housing legislation and objective design standards. And in July of 2025, staff hosted Community Workshop 2 and 3. Workshop 2 focused on the downtown Encinitas specific plan, while Workshop 3 focused on the North 101 corridor specific plan. And at these workshops, the community identified concerns and explored which design topics were most important to them. The draft documents were made available for a 30-day public review period from October 15th through November 19th. And then on October 29th of 2025, staff presented the draft city-wide implementing ordinance and objective design standards for the 2 specific plans at a joint special meeting with the City Council and Planning Commission. The goal of this meeting was to receive feedback on the draft ordinance and the objective design standards. The feedback that was received at the joint special meeting from the Council and Commission included many of these topics listed on the slide, and later in the presentation, Matt will cover what those topics were and how the feedback that was received was incorporated into our current version of the objective design standards. Additionally, attachment 4 of the agenda packet includes a detailed response from staff on how the council and commission's comments were incorporated to the maximum allowed by state law. On April 16th, 2026, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommended approval to the City Council with 13 modifications as shown on this slide and listed in the staff report. Staff and the consultant team have reviewed these recommended modifications and incorporated all 13 into the objective design standards. In addition, staff made some additional minor modifications to provide further clarification of regulations from the Commission's revisions. A strike-through underlined version has been provided as attachment 2 to the agenda report. So the purpose of the project is for the city to take a proactive approach to ensure that the city has the tools in place that establish the maximum allowed local control as allowed through state law to regulate multifamily and mixed-use development projects. The first tool is a citywide implementing ordinance that would establish clear procedures to ensure compliance with these complex state housing laws, including short review timeframes and very nuanced development standards. The second tool is objective design standards, which would not only apply to AB 2011 and SB 6 projects, but to all multifamily and mixed-use development projects within the downtown Encinitas and North 101 corridor specific plan areas. These objective standards are a great tool that state law allows us to use to create standards that we can enforce, which will help preserve the character of the community. Oops. Without these objective standards in place, the city would have less control over all multifamily and mixed-use buildings, including buildings that are over 3 stories within the 2 specific plan areas. So let's now discuss these legislative bills and some key highlighted regulations that will be included in the implementing ordinance, which are already allowed through state law. So AB 2011 and SB 6 was passed in 2022 and became effective in July of 23, which allows for multifamily and mixed-use residential development in commercial zones where office, retail, and parking uses are principally permitted. Principally permitted means a use that is permitted by right and does not require a use permit. These commercial zones are zones that have historically prohibited housing development projects. This legislation is unique and first of its kind to allow residential uses in commercial zones without requiring a site to process a rezone or general plan amendment. Projects that decide to exercise these legislations must meet all the specific eligibility criteria, nuanced development standards, and stringent labor requirements. I would like to mention that since the adoption of AB 2011 and SB 6, there have been 2 cleanup bills that have been approved. The first is AB 2243, which became effective on January 1st of 2025, and this clarifies the regulations, and that clarified the regulations and further expanded the number of eligible zones to utilize these bills. Most recently, AB 893, which became effective January 1st of this year, allows sites located within a certain proximity to a qualifying college campus to be eligible to utilize AB 2011. But it is important to note that Miracosta College does not meet the state law definition of main campus, so these additional provisions do not impact Encinitas. Additionally, staff is taking a proactive approach in continuing to monitor proposed legislation. These are the 3 different project types that could be created through these bills. Each of these project types have different requirements and standards, but it's important to note that all 3 project types do allow for both multifamily and mixed use in commercial zones. The first project type is AB 2011, 100% affordable, which would require that all of the residential units be deed restricted to anything of lower income, which would be low, very low, extremely low, or acutely low income categories. And then the second project type is AB 2011 mixed income, which would require residential units to be a mix of affordable income levels. So that would be moderate, low, very low, and extremely low. The bill does specify certain percentage requirements for each income level, and this should not be confused with the term mixed use, which all of these projects allow mixed use developments, which is a project that is both commercial and residential. And the third project type is SB 6, which does not require any affordable units to be provided, except that all SB 6 projects would be required to comply with our local inclusionary housing requirements. So now I will go over some key state law development standards that are important to highlight. So starting with the maximum and minimum allowed densities for each project type. For AB 2011 100% affordable and SB 6 project types, the legislation does not allow cities to regulate the maximum allowed density, so therefore there is no maximum limit for these project types. The legislation does require that the minimum density be the density of the R30 overlay, which is 30 dwelling units per acre. Then for the AB 2011 mixed income project type, as shown on the slide, the development standards are much more nuanced, such as the maximum density can vary from 30 to 80 dwelling units per acre, depending on the existing site conditions. And some of these impacting factors are lot size, street right-of-way width, and proximity to transit. And then the minimum density will vary depending on the project's deemed consistent date and the applicable maximum allowed density. And then lastly, it's important to note that for mixed income project types, there are no minimum and maximum densities for conversions of existing commercial buildings. So some additional key development standards I like to highlight related to height setbacks and parking are that for AB 2011 100% affordable and SB 6 project types, these standards default to the city's R30 development standards as required by state law. And then for AB 2011 mixed income project types, state law instead establishes maximum height limits of either 35 or 45 feet, depending on the width of the adjacent street right-of-way. And then state law requires that for AB 2011 mixed income project types, no parking is required except for bike, electric, and ADA that would have otherwise been applied to the development if the state law didn't apply and exempt parking. So in terms of environmental review, both of the AB 2011 project types are exempt from CEQA and are only required to complete a phase 1 environmental assessment, whereas SB6 projects are not exempt from CEQA unless they are submitting an application in combination with SB 35, which is a state streamlining approval process. And then lastly, there are labor requirements for both AB 2011 project types. And these projects must comply with the prevailing wage requirements, while SB 6 have more stringent standards requiring both prevailing wage and the use of a skilled and trained workforce. So the city has developed an initial screening tool that is an interactive GIS tool to identify potentially eligible sites based on the criteria that's outlined in state law. And I'd like to emphasize that any site shown on this map must still verify and demonstrate full compliance with all of the qualifying criteria, development standards, and any other applicable requirements established through state law. And then this map can be found on the AB 2011 SB6 project page. So based on the most recent data from HCD and the housing information that is submitted through the annual progress reports, there have been no applications in Encinitas or in any jurisdiction within the county of San Diego that have utilized either of these bills. It's important to note that all of these projects would still be required to undergo the city's design review process, meaning Planning Commission approval. And if the project is located within the coastal zone, they must also demonstrate compliance with the city's local coastal program by submitting a coastal development permit application. Additionally, state law specifies that these project types may utilize density bonus law in conjunction with the provisions of AB 2011 SB6. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Matt to go over some objective design standards.
All right, so what are objective design standards? Objective design standards are standards that involve no personal or subjective judgment, whereas design guidelines are subjective. They're not always clear how to meet the requirement or when the requirement might apply. Design standards need to be predictable, measurable, and verifiable to be considered objective. We do have an example up on the slide. In general, providing articulation when you need to is the design guideline. The design standard provides dimensions on how to meet that requirement, so that becomes an objective standard, just as an example. Many state laws, including AB 2011 and SB 6, limit local control and only allow cities and counties to use objective design standards when reviewing multifamily housing projects in particular. The objective design standards are a tool the city can use to maximize local control under state law. And these objective design standards would apply to the AB 2011 and SB 6 projects, but they would also apply to any multifamily project within the specific plan areas that would be subject to objective design standards as well. However, objective design standards must balance the objectivity with being a constraint. You can't provide so many standards that you can restrict development and reduce the density. They still have to allow development to occur, particularly without violating state law allowances for density. In the context of our conversation tonight, the densities for AB 2011 and SB 6. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through some of the slides here that highlight the topics that are included in the objective design standards. Beginning with site planning, which really focuses on transitions and setbacks between a proposed project and the adjacent uses that are existing. There's a lot of emphasis on when that project may be next to single-family homes in particular. Some of the standards that are provided include a ground floor transition setback along the property line to push the whole building back. As well as an upper story setback that would begin again along the whole property line when it's shared with single family residential, and it would start on the third floor and be pushed back even further from the ground floor. Again, just examples of some of the transition setbacks in there. Let's go to the next slide, please. The building design standards are really the core of the objective design standards and a major component. These are the major tools that the city will have to use to help shape the design of buildings. What we heard during public outreach was to really minimize the bulk and mass and prevent big, monotonous boxes as much as we could. So we provided a range of tools that work together. One of these tools may or may not apply to an individual project, so we've provided a lot of tools that work in combination together. Some of them are designed to work and scale, so they apply for larger buildings. As the buildings get larger, more requirements apply. The two that apply to larger buildings include the volumetric break requirement and then the building separation requirement when you have multiple buildings on a site. The other standards apply almost to all buildings, including an upper story facade offset, upper story facade variation, facade design elements that would be required, and some standards that deal with variation in the roof, again, to not have one long continuous roof line. A lot of these standards are built to provide flexibility and offer choices, so there's not a one-size-fits-all standard. You have to do this. They offer a range of choices and a menu of options that are still objective. So trying to balance the objectivity with good design is a very challenging task, but we hope that through these standards, there is still some flexibility to achieve good quality design that contributes to the community character of Encinitas and is not too restrictive. Some of the changes that were made based upon the council and planning commission feedback, as well as some public comments. There were adjustments to the maximum average unit size standard. There were some changes to the upper story building setback requirements from the planning commission, and then some limitations on architectural features within the setback, in particular balconies, to address some privacy, noise, and compatibility issues. Go ahead. I think I talked enough about building design. We'll skip this one. You could see some examples of again, how these design standards may shape or influence the volume of a building on this slide. Another thing to highlight is ground floor treatment. This is something particularly on Highway 101 that is very important to creating an active destination. The existing specific plans that have subjective design guidelines really discourage residential use from being on the ground floor, particularly in downtown Encinitas. With the AB 2011 and SB 6, there is the possibility for residential uses to be located on the ground floor. So we not only strengthen the standards from the specific plan, the ideas in there to make them more objective, but expanded a lot of that to cover additional scenarios that may come up by introducing residential. Some of the tools that come into play deal with transparency of buildings and windows and doors, making sure the entry is defined and that there's architectural details at the ground floor. It's not just straight stucco all the way down the facade, that you do need to do a lot more on the ground floor in particular than you would have to do on the upper stories. So that was our intent there. The objective design standards also address open space by establishing minimum required areas for common open space as well as private outdoor amenity space. They also establish minimum dimensions for both of those to ensure that the areas provided are generally usable for people who live and recreate in these areas, and that they're not 1 feet wide by 90 feet long, that we want them to be usable and still, again, not give people options that the dimensions aren't too big, and they have different ways of achieving the minimum areas. There were also a lot of changes in this section to highlight, both from the council and the planning commission feedback. One of the main ones was changing the size requirement of the open space, both for common and private outdoor amenity space that would be required per unit. The dimensions of the minimum open space also were updated to scale, again, to have larger areas required for larger projects and smaller areas for smaller projects. Again, trying to minimize the constraints, particularly on the smaller projects. There was an introduction of a ground to sky opening requirement for open space as well. That is in the objective design standards. There's a prohibition on open space on the uppermost floor of buildings to limit rooftop recreation and noise and compatibility issues. That was something that came from public comment. So no rooftop decks, whether that's private or common open space or private outdoor amenity space and common open space. And then updating some of the amenities that would be allowed and would be required from the menu of options within common open space and private amenity space as well. The objective design standards address many, many other topics that are important to the overall design of buildings and the community character of Encinitas. I'm just going to highlight some of the changes we made to some of the other topics. We added standards related to mature trees and preservation of mature trees, requiring 50% Southern California native landscaping, requiring permeable surfaces, and addressing lighting and noise, screening rooftop equipment, and the design of service and utility areas. And we added some standards where it made sense to encourage public art and murals as part of projects, again, to help get something out of these projects that contributes back to the community character.
All right, hello. Thanks, Matt. So the objective design standards are proposed to be added as an appendix to the specific plan as Chapter 12 in the Downtown Encinitas specific plan and Chapter 11 in the North 101 Corridor specific plan. And to best reference and incorporate the objective design standards, there were minor language amendments proposed throughout each of the specific plans. So staff recommends that the City Council introduce City Council Ordinance number 2026-10. And this concludes my presentation, and staff as well as the consultant team are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, before we go to preliminary questions, if we could have any disclosures, starting down at the far end?
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
And I have nothing to disclose. So with that, do we have any preliminary questions?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Just real quickly, you referred to VMT area and the choice of locations in this. I know VMTs is part of it. VMT area, what's the difference between the measure of the VMT, the number of miles, vehicle miles traveled to whatever the qualifying point is, whether it's rail or whether it's a bus stop, whatever. What's a VMT area? Is that different? You said use that term, and I'm just trying, I want to clarify.
Yeah, so, sorry, is my microphone working?
I think he had to lower the volume because there was some beat, boom, 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 going on. We could hear, but now I don't hear it.
Hello? Okay, I think it's going.
We weren't trying to mute you or anything, really.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, and it's my understanding that we have like a map that's a part of our VMT guidelines that map out certain areas within the city and give them essentially like a ranking. Within the city, there's only 3 areas that have and qualify for the low VMT. So those are already pre-established areas.
Okay. And then, so the map you showed us in that case, is the VMT areas, does it also take into account, I know part of this law is 75% of the adjacent property has to have an urban use. Does it take that into account too? What is that map that we saw, I guess, and how much is it defined? How much do we look at each space in it per site, or is it universal because there are different laws that each one has to qualify for? Or different.
Are you talking about the eligibility?
Yeah, so you
the
put in-
GIS eligibility map?
An eligibility map. Does that also take in, obviously, VMT areas that you said? Does it also take into account at this process, or is it something we look at upon application? Like I know one of the rules is 75% of the adjacent property has to be urban use. And looking at that, I wasn't sure if that was the case in all those, and so I'm not sure. So I'm looking to find out just clarification as if what we saw tonight includes that portion of the rule, or if that's something that happens upon application, I see.
So when we did our initial screening and looking at some of the qualifying criteria of the bills, we were looking at the 75% adjacent uses, but any project that comes in would still need to demonstrate that they meet all of the qualifying criteria. So it's just initial screening, so potentially eligible sites, all projects would still need to demonstrate that they meet all of the qualifying criteria and development standards.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the question. It's a very cumbersome package to put together and put a presentation to, so I'm amazed you did so well. I only had that one really question, so thank you.
Cool. Any other questions of clarification? If not, what do we have in public comments?
Do you want to open the public hearing first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
We have one
I will open
speaker.
the public hearing. I was just asking the number.
One.
Man, I'm being held hostage
Sorry.
to, you won't tell me the number until I
No.
open the hearing. Okay. Man,
sorry, just trying to-
tough clerk here, you know?
Just we have one speaker, Molly Hentley.
Tough clerk.
Hey, Molly Hentley in District 2. I attended 2 of the workshops, and I appreciate how staff and Ascent managed the workshops. However, it's really hard to have a subjective guideline that works for everyone. It's really, the trend right now, if you look at Solaris and what's soon going to be Dos Lunas, and in 5 years, it's going to be a different look and feel. We might go back to the hacienda look or, mid-century modern. So if there's any way we can have a caveat in our municipal code that can be modified And this is an aspirational mention, should these bills ever be reversed. So my concern is what everyone's concern is, loss of commercial retail and land use, loss of sales tax as a result. We're gonna have density bonus stacking, which we can't stop. The infrastructure, neighborhood compatibility and stress is a concern. Traffic and parking, because they're taking away parking for all these developments. So can the objective designs also be modified as the year goes on? Or is it etched in stone? Because I feel like it's taken us a long time to update this municipal code, but it would be nice if we have a yearly review, because hopefully things change. And then beyond the mitigation fees, it would be really awesome if we could start carving out that we get some kind of community impact fees for a pool, maybe. That would be nice. So I know that that's not what this topic is, but I just have to find a way to keep weaving it in. And as we keep talking about development, how can the developers help improve our parks and recreation here at Encinitas? Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes speakers on this item.
Okay. I will now close the public hearing, and we'll move on to council discussion and action. And Deputy Mayor O'Hara, did you have more to continue with discussion? You were up first. Okay.
I want to thank staff, the community, everybody. I think everybody up here, I'm going to say something that everyone up here also is going to repeat, but I appreciate that staff is looking for something to aid the residents, to come to the aid of what they hear our residents saying. I applaud you for being proactive. I don't think as someone before I sat up here, I don't think I experienced that very often, and I'm so proud that you did that and so grateful for you to do it. It makes a big difference in going forward. I think you've done a really good job. I did have a question to the speaker's point about how often we want to review this and making sure that is as part of whatever the motion ends up being up here. I'd also be remiss if I didn't say to our residents, AB 2011 is nasty. Absolutely nasty. It's one of the worst bills out there put through by Adam Weiner. If you want to know what an AB 2011 project is, I urge everyone here to go look at the Safeway project in the Marina District of San Francisco. The Safeway project of Marina in San Francisco is 5 times the size of any surrounding building at 24 stories. The loss of a landmark, 848 units with 27 affordable units. No parking. Every time they get them to go down a unit, or go down a floor from 27 stories on 24, they add units in density, making more people packed into these sardine apartments. It avoided CEQA. The water table is at 10 feet. They're going 20 feet down to put pylons into the bedrock right through the water table. They don't have to do hardly any studies. Planning Commission? Nope. City Council? Nope. Board of Supervisors? Nope. And doesn't even see this room. It is nasty. Vote Scott Weiner out if he runs for anything. I think staff, you've done a great job making us have the prettiest pig we can have here with this makeup. Thank you. I'll be supporting whatever the motion is. I assume it's going to go forward. Thank you for a great job.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Deputy Mayor O'Hara said, that this is amazing that we're the first to the table to make this happen before anything gets in. There's a couple stopgaps. They have to do prevailing wages and stuff like that, but it is on its way, and I thank you guys tremendously for the work done to protect us where we can. And I think that's more for the residents to know that that's what's really happening here. And our staff did that above and beyond all of their, standard duties. And this is, I think it's more to what it is that we have been trying to do up here and trying to fight from the first speaker this evening and his attempt to campaign, if you will, up here against us. But this is actual work to get to that direction and protect this community. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll hop in here. I've got a few questions, but also echo what was said. What I see here is this is a continuum. And I see work that was done on Planning Commission several years ago for our objectives. I see it being brought forward. The grant could only apply to North 101 specific plan and downtown Encinitas specific plan. We have other specific plans we'll want to bring back, possibly fund doing this same work. And then we'll want to do some update again to the municipal code, like the average maximum unit size that I've talked about went to, instead of the 800-900, which would encourage workforce housing in our municipal code, it got bumped up to 1,000, 1,100. So you can have luxury condos galore in the non-specific plan regions that qualify on that map you saw. So there's more work to do, but I applaud where we're going. And it's great having somebody who knows the city working on it. And you've been here for quite. How long have you been working on objective standards with us here? Matt, it's been. I think you were in front of me in Planning Commission.
No, not Planning Commission. It's
Okay.
been about 18 months since we've been
18
working on
okay, I
this,
guess-
but I've been working on objective design standards since 2019. I wrote the guide on objective design standards, and
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Well,
Challenging topic.
Thank you. So with that, I have a few questions, as always. Matt, you made a comment about encouraging public art. That's not objective. What did you mean? Demanding, requiring public art, or?
No,
Can
I
you-
think
can
what
you-
I was referring to is we have a table of amenities that in the common open space in particular, for example. So if a project comes in and they are required to do open space, they have to pick from a long list of options. Public art is one of the options they can use to satisfy kind of the amenities that go in that.
So they have an objective choice, like a point system or something, or just an objective menu to pick from. Okay, I just wanted to make sure nobody went back and said, "Oh, hey, that sounded subjective." I want to go into just so everybody understands. Oh, the bill specifies mixed income percentages. What are the mixed income? How many very low? Does it do extremely low? Probably not. Very low, low, moderate, I assume. And what's the percentage of market rate?
So, gonna try to say this simply. It depends on. Oh wait, we're looking at affordability.
If you have to,
1 second. No, I
pick
got it.
examples or something. I understand we're talking many variables.
So the affordable housing requirements under mixed income, they separate them out between renter and owner. So the owner percentage requirements is 8% dedicated to very low income, and then 5% dedicated to extremely low, or 15% dedicated to lower. And lower, the state definition is low, very low, extremely low, and they can essentially pick.
Okay, cool. And so the point where I was going is that our inclusionary ordinances would require 15%. So the incremental amount of low income being produced by this law is, in this case, 0, right? In other words, we're already requiring more low income because we require 15% very low or 20% low. And so the builders are benefiting without having to provide incremental additional low income. It's a reoccurring theme with density bonus, with buy right, It's not, it happens to us all the time, but there's what I like to call double and triple dipping. So that's what we're fighting here. The affordability period is 45 years. That's not our affordability period. Is that something statutory in AB 2011 or SB 6? Or did I get that wrong?
So it specifically calls out the difference between renter and owner, and renter is 55 years, owner is 45 years.
Okay. And like where we have certain units are in perpetuity, would that apply here at all? If our inclusionary overlays on this, usually the stricter or longer period applies. Would it be in perpetuity for those that we would require under inclusionary as perpetuity?
That is correct, because the bill specifies the deeper affordability. So ours being perpetuity would be deeper.
Okay, great. And then any of the incremental ones from density bonus that are 55 would be 55, not 45, et cetera.
55 for density bonus.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, cool. That was a nuance. And a couple things I really liked. I liked the limit on the rooftop because I think that's been being gamed. If you look at Goodson as an example, they got the rooftop deck, pool house. It's an extra story. I also really like the inclusion that these cannot be rented as short-term vacation rentals, because that's not what we're building. We're trying to build workforce housing if somebody takes advantage of this. And so I think that those are my comments. I appreciate the explanations. I support it. And did we get a second on it yet? Or did we get a motion? I'll move approval in that case. And I will yield to Councilmember Lyons.
Thank you. We worked on this really hard. I'm happy with where it's going. One thing I want to call out, though, is that even people who are really informed in our community are having a hard time following the plot here, just because the state changes things. And all of a sudden now we've got citywide eligibility that we didn't have when we first started this. So it's tough. It's tough to follow, and it takes over communicating. And I think we've been handling that public engagement really well. Thank you, staff, for that. I support the motion, but I do want to call out something where I would like my council members to consider something, and I'd also like staff to give input on this a little bit more. We talked about this in my briefing. One of the things that the recommended action is to integrate the Planning Commission recommendations and that's shown up on, that shows, if you could maybe turn to the slide number 7, page number 7, Planning Commission approval, April 16th, 2026, which we're also considering approving today and then integrating into the objective standards. When I first read this, I was, and I haven't backed off of this concern. There are 4 items here, it'd be items 7, 8, 9, and 10, that are requesting, or they're recommending, a decrease in the outdoor open space and amenity space. That it's my understanding that that is something that the public really might not want, for a couple reasons. One is that outdoor space is the living, breathing environment, and we actually use our outdoor space as extensions of our living space sometimes, especially when we gather in groups. And when I talk to staff about decreasing the common open space and the private open space, amenity open space, and allowing the common space to count entirely for the towards the required landscaping, I asked, well, why would we do that? Because objective standards are our opportunity to tell the developer what we want, what's important to us. And I hear very loudly from the public that, yeah, we love our open spaces, and we really want to count for more of it wherever we possibly can. So if for no other reason, then this is going to be an opportunity for us to communicate to the developers. This is who we are here in Encinitas. And if you're going to come here and you're going to build here, then we're going to want this open space. That's important to us. So I would like to not reduce, not decrease our open space because I don't see the downside. I mean, I don't see the downside to keeping it as it is, honestly. I don't see the reason why we would reduce our open space. And I know staff, Scott, you maybe, and Sarah, you mentioned that, well, you know, maybe the developers would just waive it then because they don't want to do it. I don't think that's strong enough. I think, and I think that we should really demand on it, demand it. So, Scott, you know, I did ask, are the developers asking to waive the open space? And I know you were going to get back to me. Do you have anything else to share on that?
Yes, Sarah did take a look at it right after you asked, so she's got some information that she can share for sure.
Okay, Sarah, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was looking through the density bonus reports that have been approved, Quail Meadows was one that reduced. They ended up opting to do the 300 combined open space requirement, and then they used a waiver to reduce that, and it was about, I think, just over 150 square feet per unit combined that they ended up providing for the units.
So the way I look at that is, well, they had to use a waiver to reduce it. Why are we just handing it to, why would we hand a reduction just to them? So I'd really like to keep our open space as we have it. And thank you for, though, clarifying. That's a good example of how they've looked at it in the past. And if the motion maker would consider that?
Yeah, that was one of my notes I missed, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I had the same. I may ask a few more questions when I get up again, but I will consider that, absolutely. And then I'll come back to you and ask which points on page, whatever.
What was it, 7, 8, 9, and what?
So on page 7, it's 7, 8, 9, and 10.
7, 8, 9, and 10, okay. Perfect.
And I'll yield.
But, yeah, for the motion right now, I'll accept that. But I have questions about it that I may, I just want to find out a little more detail on why the Planning Commission did it. But
okay.
If you're done, I'll go to Councilmember San Antonio.
I'm yielding.
I just want to say thank you. I know it's a lot of work. I know you guys did a great job arguing that, you know, when discretionary design is it's unavailable. Measurable standards are one of the cities, it's like the strongest remaining tool that we have to fight this. So, and I think predictability is what I think everybody wants. So when applicants know the rules when they're submitting for a project, and the staff has measurable criteria, residents can see what, you know, how we govern this thing and how we, you know, I know there's been no applications as of yet, but getting this framework up before there is even one, I think, is super important. I just want to say thank you. I know it was an incredible amount of work, and I know, I think in my briefing, we talked about receiving public input and incorporating that into this, and I think that's very important for the public to know that they're being heard and that staff is really trying to find what's important and how we can do that and to incorporate that. I think it means makes a world of difference to people that are sitting here trying to help the city make a difference for the future. You know, this is huge. So thank you.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
So a couple of questions real quick. The on 7, 8, and 9, since they've been discussed, how did the number 50 square foot per unit come into play, and how was on 7 and 8, and how did number 9 end up at 100 square feet? I understand the recommendation, what was by the planning commission to bring it down. How do we hit those specific numbers?
The Planning Commission came up with those numbers.
Did they have a rationale? Do we know or remember? Is it arbitrary? So, in a lot of ways, the number is arbitrary, unfortunately. It's arbitrary because there's no limit to waivers that these developers can pull, is there? They want to pull 20 waivers, as long as we don't have reason to push back on it, they can pull them.
Under density bonus, it's unlimited waivers.
Correct. So, I don't know what their thought was. I don't think it matters whether it's 200 or 50. What really matters in an objective standard, I think this is where we're getting confused what an objective standard is. An objective standard is a number that something has to qualify then to hit. But as far as when we talk the next step of that, which is a waiver, so the objective standard being the measurable number that you require them to be in order to have the project pass. When they pull the waiver, you can't say no unless you have an objective standard number that can stand alone and say, no, this is a standard for safety or for fire protection or for mental health or for design, like architectural purposes. If we don't, so these numbers are arbitrary just by instance, right? And so we can change it into whatever we want. That doesn't make 7, 8, 9, 10 any more or less valuable, unfortunately. I think that's an accurate thing to say, unfortunately. Unless we can put a number to it. No, not just put a number to it. We have to put a number that we can rationale and defend. And say, no, you have to have it because this very specific reason in which the state and HCD can't back up on and say, sorry, we don't care, is applicable, correct? More or less?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Sorry, I know you're going through making sure I was saying things correctly, but we can only back up on a waiver and say no to a waiver unless only if there is a substantial finding that health, safety, architecture would not support that finding, right?
That's correct, Deputy Mayor. So we would need a specific adverse impact. We'd have to demonstrate that upon public health safety.
So what I'm saying is putting arbitrary numbers in here, as much as I'd like to, and I'd love to see it stay at 200, 100, 300, how do we come up with a number? And unless we have that information, it's just a conversation. We pick a number that's arbitrary. I think it should be bigger because I think I agree with Councilmember Lyons, people love their open space and they use it, and it's part of the reason we live here. As far as it being effective, that's what I'm more interested in. How do we make that effective? So yeah, I guess that's really the answer. Whether it's 300 feet or 100 square feet, what does it matter if they can pull a waiver?
Can I hop in?
I'll yield for the moment, yeah.
Good. Yeah, because you talk about arbitrary numbers, and I think the arbitrariness is in the reduced numbers. We have a history on the original numbers. We have many projects that have gone through. Some have required waivers, some have not. Why would we arbitrarily go to the smaller number? Yeah. And so I think I hope that's where you were going.
Yeah.
That's certainly where Councilmember Lyons went, and I would go there. So I say we strike, and I think it was 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? It was 4 of them that I'm going to look at. Councilmember Lyons is nodding yes, so that's good. So I will modify my motion to include deleting 7, 8, 9, and 10 on page 9 of the report.
Page 7. Oh, 9 of the report.
9 of our item. Yeah. And I think it's good. I understand waivers can be used, and we're going to be going forward. We're going to be battling every one of these different incursions into our zoning and whatnot, and maybe someday we'll get some relief from California density bonus law. I don't want to give up the first line in the sand, the line that we have history on, and go, oh, yeah, it's more likely they're going to take 50. I don't believe that at all. They're just as likely to waive half of it as they are the whole. And so let's stick to our guns. I agree, that's what people want. So I'll yield to Councilmember Schaefer, and then
Yeah, just a quick question. What is the required open space? I know that at Paris Point, they're putting their recreational space on the roof. So what is the required space is it per square foot or is it just per unit?
per unit.
Square foot per unit, and that's the reflected numbers, the old numbers. So the 200, the 100, 200, and 300, those are the open space standards for R30 overlay.
Got it.
Anything else?
Well, again, why would they go down? Is it to give? Ultimately is that more space for them to build more units? I just don't. That's
I think the
ultimately
logic was they were more likely to accept it and
not waiver.
yeah, and
not
waiver,
apply,
but-
not
but-
apply for density bonus potentially was most likely the planning commission's intent.
Yeah, and-
Trying to
and-
find the sweet spot where somebody could come in with a normal application, less density bonus, and comply with codes. But clearly, these codes work.
And I can't, in all my experience, I can't imagine a developer making a decision not to go for density bonus based on these minuscule open space numbers. They're basing it on many other exemptions, waivers that they need, or concessions.
I would say staff would agree with the mayor on that point.
Oh, cool. Appreciate that. Anything else? And
Yeah.
on to Deputy Mayor O'Hara.
And so leaning on the 200, 100, 300, that was staff's original recommendation, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is a lovely discussion. I support the higher numbers. In the end, when they come up here and they stand here, or they go to Planning Commission, they don't care what the number is. They're pulling the waiver and they're looking for what pencils out for them. We forget that all the time up here. It's not about what they're gonna, what they want to equal out to us. It's what pencils out for them is what they care about. And they may say, oh, I grew up here, or oh, I lived in the neighborhood, or we're a small multi-million-dollar development company. In the end, whether they're putting 36 units on it, 27 units, or 400 units, it's what pencils out for them. And so if they can just pull a waiver, they're going to do whatever pencils out for them. And then they're going to come in here asking for the moon, hoping they'll get something. So let's go with the higher number. Maybe they'll be generous and they'll give us a lower number. But I just don't want to put I don't want to put people's hopes up on this one. This is not the way the one to do it with.
And if I could just little clerical work here. Councilmember Lyons, when you made the modification, did you also second or not? Oh, I will. Okay, then I now have a second.
Yes.
I hadn't heard a second yet, and I just went in, nor had the clerk, so.
That's amended.
A second with a friendly amendment and accepted by both of us, or I accepted the friendly amendment.
So it's to go back to the original numbers on 7, 8, 9 and to remove 10.
It's 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? Yeah. So if you'll read it back.
Sure. The motion that I have is to introduce the ordinance 2026-10 with the modification from 7 to strike through 7 through 10 of Planning Commission's recommendation on page 9 of the staff report.
Yep. I believe that's it. Any?
So I guess it's semantics here. I think if we remove all 4 of those, then it just reverts back to the original open space.
That's correct.
So removing all 4 of those, I think, is what I'm intended.
Yeah. And Jim, did you want to speak? Did you have? You sound like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a little follow up. So I think we've got this. Truly, I think everybody up here has had an amazing report with some really good stuff. I think a next step it would be to look at how do we fix the challenge, or where is there anywhere in here where we can put strength behind these objective standards, and truly make them so objective that they are non-waivable.
So
and that would be my only request is like, hey, this is the best start we've ever had. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and I think this has been a continuum the city's been on for several years. A lot of push right now on the AB 2011 SB6. Objective standards have been, we've been struggling to implement them. I even spoke earlier how this only applies to 2 of our specific plans, and there's some revisions on the municipal code we probably want to go and back annotate in. So I think where you're going, Jim, is that we should be agendizing additional changes to the other specific plans, which cost money, and maybe we can get a grant, maybe we can't, and to the municipal code, which I think we just need to do because that's where the protections for local control will come in.
So I'm not sure I entirely agree with that. I think yes and no, but I think if we do the same thing for these other plans, but there's no teeth and they can waive them all.
No, I was saying go back, and I'm not saying just do these changes.
Right.
I'm putting teeth in other areas. So we need to be constantly revising our other code.
Correct.
You know, I don't want to get too far off topic tonight because tonight we've got the AB 2011 SB6.
Well, and
in
that's what I'm
front
talking
of us.
about, AB 2011 and SB6. If there's ways to dive in to find what pieces in here, we can actually, when they come and say, hey, we want a waiver, not say, okay, and make it into like, you can, here are the objective standards you have to hit, and we will go to court over these.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do that yet. And I think that's where staff is headed, and I want them to keep going in that direction. Because if we just do this everywhere, but we don't keep working towards that, that's where they're gonna, it's great. How do we use it in effect positive?
And I think on our annual work plan, we have an item that talks about objective standards, as I recall. And did you want to hop in? And basically, how do we strengthen our objective standards?
Absolutely. It
What was
was,
the item?
yeah, it was actually started with the other work plan, continuing on. So that's exactly what staff is looking to do, and not just on the AB 2011 or the SB6. It's on everything. It's like trying to come up with better objective standards throughout the city for future development. So definitely appreciate that, and that definitely is a goal of staff.
I agree. I think we get this to the idea of having objective standards. We're great. Now, how do we make we're defining what an objective standard is. We're setting the tone. We're setting the tone for lots of other cities in California. It's fantastic. The next step, though, is how do we make these objective standards solid?
Yeah.
So when someone pushes on us with the waiver, we can say no.
Yeah, like defendable, measurable,
Yeah, those are
and
quantifiable,
meaningful.
measurable. You can put them down in front of an engineer. An engineer says, yes, this number is back. I can find the science and the math behind it. I can prove it's correct.
Yep.
And I think that's where we want to, look at where we can do that with projects like this. I'm saying, great job. You're going. Keep going.
Yep, good. Okay. And we'll be discussing it more in the future with the work plan. So with that, I have no further speakers, and I've got a motion and a second. I think you read it back, so I'm not sure we need to read it back again unless somebody wants it. Nope. So please vote.
That motion carries unanimously and takes us to item 12A.
Okay. Do we need a break or we can? Okay, cool. I like it. I like it. Item 12A is a council-initiated item. Council-initiated item from Councilmember Luke Schaefer and Deputy Mayor Jim O'Hara regarding additional tree coverage along ECP and the I-5 boundary. With that, I'll hand over the floor to which one of you? Or both of you? Okay.
I think we both feel really positive and really strong about this. Councilmember Schaefer and I met with a resident and had a long discussion about this. And we, talked to some residents in the process, came up with a council-initiated item that we think will increase health and experience at the Encinitas Community Park, create a more usable space, a friendlier space, a healthier space, and a long-term space that becomes even more enjoyable and makes the park itself more attractive. And that idea is planting trees along the I-5 corridor, the eastern boundary of Encinitas Community Park, that simultaneously advance the city's tree canopy goals and they improve public health. A dense vegetative buffer can filter freeway pollutants. We have 160,000 users, I think, in that park annually. A number of them, most of them, or a large majority of them, are youth playing sports, and they're inhaling exhaust off the highway. We want to clean that air before it gets to them a little bit better, and we think trees are one of the ways we can do that. Create a safer environment for park users. At the same time, adding approximately 100 trees strengthens our climate resilience. And we talked about the CAP earlier today. Tree planting should be in the CAP, by the way. But adding more climate resilienceness It expands shade a little bit with this one. It definitely enhances the habitat and the visual character rather than looking at the highway and the side of the highway and Caltrans right away. I think we can all agree a lovely row of trees would be much more enjoyable to see in that space. The dual benefit supports the city's environmental objectives. It offers meaningful immediate protection for residents and families who use the park, illustrating the infrastructure that we can look at within our city without it costing a fortune, without it being heavy-duty infrastructure. Infrastructure itself isn't always going to be drainage or large, heavy projects. Sometimes it's as simple as putting the right community characteristic pieces in the right spot so that they are both beautiful and functional. And I think that this does that. With that, our goal is to basically reach to staff and hand this to staff and say, look, we know that there's a goal of planting 100 trees every year, or having a net goal of 100 trees every year. We've had, one of our commissions has lacked on follow through on that, but we're looking to move that forward proactively as a council. And so we want to be part of that. If all 100 trees can go there, great. I don't know what the reality of that is. So it's to have staff look at what is the most trees, what are the feasible trees, what are the right trees to put there that will grow, won't tax us, where's the water to plant to water these trees. The plan we can come back in over the next 2 or 3 years, accomplish some task of getting 100 or whatever the reasonable number of trees is along that border. Within the packet, you'll see the right-of-way is kind of drawn so you can almost picture it out. You can see we've got the included items in here that go over the Caltrans right-of-way and the park border, so that I think we can accomplish this. But this is to hand it off to staff to come back with a plan that's over the next couple of years to plant that, like I said, either 100 trees or whatever trees are reasonable. If that's more than 100, great. If it's less than 100, we understand that there's capacity. We want to have healthy trees. We want to have vibrant trees, and we want to have trees that will be an asset. I'm going to hand it off to Councilmember Schaefer.
No, it's that simple, is putting trees up, and the majority of the reason was to protect the parks. Park's supposed to be 500 feet away from any major thoroughfares or freeways like this, and the center of the park, right where the kids are running and playing, is, I want to say, is right at the 500-foot mark. So the gentleman that we spoke to, that all of the trees on the west side, so a lot of those should have been on the east side, making it at least blocking the freeway. They put them over there to block the residents and the noise, but should have had the same amount of trees on the east side as well. So that's all this is, and to bring it back with an ability. I already talked with Tony, the chair of the UFAC, and he said that there has been trees planted along there, quite a number actually, but they're slow growing and it's going to take a while. So to enhance and keep going and push it on.
Councilmember Lyons. And Warren, could you bring up Google Maps? Just in the meantime, I'm
happy to support this. Thanks for bringing it forward. Thanks for keeping it simple. There are hundreds of trees already planted there. And I think your instincts to ask staff to bring it back and see, well, what's that irrigation system? What's that hydro zone? Those trees, that's an area that's more revegetation, not traditional park trees. So but staff will come back with their recommendation. So I want to get down to the details. I'm happy to support this.
Yep.
Oh, and also come back with the cost so we can make a final decision.
And I got a few questions. I support it. I mean, this is like, yeah. Can you go zoom in on the park, go down to Street View, and I want to take a drive from north to south along there, because I think it's really telling there are a lot of trees there. It's a mix of everything from some old, probably pre-existing eucalyptus to I see at least one ornamental plum, it looks like, and there are a lot of trees in there, and they're various stature. Oh, I actually want to be on the park. You can actually, on Google, go down the park, zoom in a little more, and when you pick the little guy, you'll see that you can go on the road in the park.
Right there? Yeah. Along
Right along, right there, yeah. Yeah, so I thought this was a great view. I don't know, this is probably 2026, September 2022 image. at least what I'm seeing on my Google. But you can see the density, and we don't own all of that, but we have a pretty sizable band there that will support a lot of trees. And I think where you're going, so I'm going to ask questions about so we can get real clear definition. You want more than one row of trees.
Correct.
Yeah, you know.
What we want, what makes sense, the ultimate objective is to keep, the original objective is to keep the freeway gunk getting from there into the kids, you know.
And so in general, we'll talk about augmenting the trees that are there and figuring out how to get some, and then what size trees? Bigger trees, I assume.
Correct.
Not, so not short street trees, but this has 30, 40, 50 feet of Encinitas zone space before you hit the ramp going up to, you know, the dirt going up to the, so if, and you can see that if you look at the aerial. And would it be limited only to Encinitas right away, or I wonder if we could investigate a Caltrans cooperation?
That'd be better, because then we can get benefits sooner if we can get closer to the freeway, of course.
Well,
Because of that hillside, because it's so far down, by the time it's going to take 10 years to get to a place where it's actually even doing the job.
Yeah,
that
so
was planted to do.
So it sounds like we're talking about augmenting, maybe selectively replacing if they put in small diminutive trees. And I'm all for it. I just wanted to add that, see if that was part of the proposal to have staff. And I mean, this doesn't have to be that expensive. I mean, especially SDG&E was giving away trees. It sounds like it's something we could give to Parks and Rec and have them go look at.
Sure. Well, yeah, and I think it can be done over multiple years even. It's not something that needs to be rushed out and every tree planted. It does make sense to talk to Caltrans about the right-of-way space. The Caltrans has, on the other side, I believe, promised to put a wall, and that has not happened. So
on the opposite side?
Yeah, on the opposite side.
Cool.
That has clearly not come to fruition. We're on this side of the road and talking about that today, and but that does mean there may be a discussion to have of, hey, can we put some trees in this space? And it's certainly an easy phone call if somebody picks up the phone, but it's definitely a worthwhile phone call.
Okay. So I
We do
guess
have one
I'll
speaker.
turn to the city. Oh, we do have. Oh, that's a white slip.
Yeah, they're all white.
They're all
Oh,
white
they're all
now.
white now. Oh, I missed that. Man.
Molly Hantley?
You know, you've got, 20, 25 years of training here, and you change colors on me. Man.
Designed it. It's really good. Good evening, Molly Hitlian. I support this. What a fabulous idea. I'm going to make reference, as you're looking for inspiration, is my favorite recreation center, Alga Norte. That was opened in 2011, and so it's taken 15 years for its tree canopy to grow. But if you've been there lately, it is filled in fabulously. They did a fantastic job with a mix of trees, and I'm sure they're drought tolerant and everything. So I would recommend, as part of the recommendation for staff, Parks and Rec, or whoever is looking at it, to go to Alga Norte or call up Carlsbad and ask what kind of trees they did, because they did a great job with the infill along your entrance into the park. And it's really awesome. So thank you.
Does Alga Norte have a pool too?
Well, since I still have time, in your planting plan here, please keep all the trees along the freeways so we can keep that open lot open for a pool.
That's not agendized tonight, just so we're clear here, folks. Okay, so what do we need?
Can I add another comment? I'm in the queue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think I'm in the queue. Yeah. So I just want to add a little bit of comment for staff, if the makers of this motion are in agreement, in that it's typical for the city to put smaller trees in, 15-gallon, 24-inch box, just because we're always looking to do things in an affordable way. But if we want to give staff the direction that there may be some places where there's some significant gaps that we might want to invest in larger specimens right up front. And that may give you more what you're looking for. 36-inch or
That'd be great.
48-inch box.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Include that.
Okay, so I think a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
And what's the action, just so we're clear? I'm just saying,
So
I have to pull up. What did you say?
the motion is would be to approve asking staff to return with a plan to populate the eastern border of the ECP boundary with the I-5 with a substantial number of trees that will grow to a height to scrub the air and buffer sound and add to the beauty of the park.
Okay. We get that?
No, we got it. If this motion so passes, I will get with Parks and Rec tomorrow and we'll get working on that.
Okay, so is that a motion from
Yeah, and
Marco, seconded by Luke?
It's on your
Okay.
screen.
And we don't, we've got it on record. We don't have to add the other pieces, but we can assume staff will do that.
Yeah.
All right,
We'll review the tape, absolutely.
perfect, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second? I don't think we need it read back, do we? No, okay. With that, we'll call the question.
That motion carries unanimously.
Perfect, thank you, good idea. Moving on, item 13 is AB 1234 reports, and I'll start down at the far end.
Two choices on microphones. I keep on switching. All I have to report is that I've gone to, over the break, several meetings with the San Diego County Water Authority. Primarily, most important topic is additional water transfers that the Water Authority is looking into making, and beyond the two that they've already made here in Southern California.
I have nothing to report.
I attended the Regional Solid Waste Association, and I was well over there.
I attended the NCTD board meeting. Finances are challenging, and we're working hard to provide a quality product. Among times where we are seeing less and less money put towards NCTD, it being a smaller transit. The state favors the larger transit companies, or transit agencies rather. So we are working hard to get representative, get funding, and provide services to people. I attended the SEDGPAW meeting, San Leandro Joint Power Water Authority, and we apparently are getting ready to say goodbye to probably one of the best CEOs it's ever had. He's done a great job. We'll have to bring him up here and give him a proclamation when he retires. And right now we're looking at working on a contract with his replacement, which we are very confident in, who will also do a good job. And last but not least, I want to thank Ted Lasso for reminding me of how profound the lyrics of Public Enemy are. Thank you.
Uh-oh. Now we know what you did during your break. Yeah. So let's see. I attended 3 different Sandag board meetings over the last 5 weeks. One of which we approved after an NCTD and MTS fare increase. But as they explained during our meeting, it wasn't enough, but it will reduce the amount of service that has to be cut to balance the books. So and Sandag did approve that. I attended yesterday the Encinitas Wastewater Authority Policy Finance Committee meeting. And then it's not an AB 1234 report, but on August 4th, we had a e-bike, the sheriff held an e-bike safety. I think several people in my better part of the audience was there, this audience and some of the previous audience. It was great. It was awesome. And I kind of view it as a dry run. We talked earlier about education. I almost brought this up then, but I thought I'll wait for the proper time. They talked about, who was it from, not Scripps, from Sharp, I think it was.
No, it was Scripps.
It was Scripps, okay. Yeah, talking about helmet and helmet science. They talked about the different type of e-bikes. A father gave a story about his son getting caught and evading police, and all he's had to go through with what happened to his son, and then it turns out he's a sheriff himself. And so it was extra poignant to him. And in the end, after learning all about the different bikes, the different types of bikes and their speeds, that, type 1, class 1 and class 2 can go to 20 miles an hour, class 3 can go to 28 miles an hour, and of course the sarongs, the e-motorcycles are not legal, period. Then we went out and the sheriffs conducted a demonstration. And it was perfect. It was so poignant at the end of the class to go out there, and the sheriff comes around at first 10 miles an hour, jams the brakes as though we're at a crosswalk, stops in 10 feet. Goes back, comes around at 20 miles an hour, right? That's the maximum speed for the class 1 and 2, pedal assisted. Jams the brake 16 feet. Skid mark right down the lane. Comes around at 28. Doesn't sound that much faster. He went 89 feet of skid. 89 feet. Went right through the crosswalk, and another 40 feet, 50 feet down. So it really was. We talk about education. We had requests tonight for education. I'm going to ask that the sheriff videotape this, and we present it again. It's one of those things we're kind of at a loss. How do we get kids and parents to come to this, because that's who needs to see it. Any bike rider has to see it. So as we go forward this year, and we talk about e-bike safety as one of our items, I think this will be one that we should bring back, agendize, and talk about. But it was a great meeting, and I thank the sheriff for pulling it together, and thank the people that came. Pass on the word. Tell everybody how good it was. So with that, I think, city manager report.
Thank you. And council, you will get a chance to talk about e-bikes. It's agendized and the report is out today. So yes, you will get to talk about that next week. So I do have several things since we were on break. First, I do want to start out, as promised, I would give updates on immigration enforcement in the city. So we had an incident on June 15th, which we did a date of request on June 30th. Agents encountered a subject in the U.S. illegally. The individual was placed under arrest. This was near Encinitas Boulevard, and the agency was the U.S. Border Patrol. We did not receive advance notification on that. And we have done the FOIA. This is all on our immigration information page, and it's updated. We had another one on June 30th. Agents patrolling in a marked vehicle contacted a Guatemalan adult male who did not possess any valid immigration documents that allow him to be in or remain in the U.S. Legally. It was in the intersection of Orpheus Avenue and North Vulcan. This, again, was U.S. Border Patrol. We were given advance notice of that action. On 7/1, we had an incident where agents encountered an adult male from Mexico near a location while conducting a roving patrol. He did not possess any valid immigration documents that would allow him to be in or remain in the United States legally. This was at the intersection of South Coast Highway 101 and Encinitas Boulevard. This was U.S. Border Patrol. We were given advance notice. On 7/7, officers arrested a Guatemalan adult male in the city of Encinitas. He had a final order of removal by the immigration judge and did not possess any valid immigration documentation that would allow him to be or remain in the U.S. legally. This was at Puebla Street and Del Rio Avenue in Encinitas, California. This was ICE, and on this one, we were given advance notice. And then we found out about an incident. We are not sure the dates that it happened, so it's between about 7/1 and 7/27. Targeted enforcement outside of a business in Cardiff by the sea. They arrested 2 individuals who were unlawfully present in the United States. This was ICE, and we were not given notification. So this is on our immigration, again, like I said, on immigration information, and we have done FOIAs for all of those. So I did want to go ahead and update folks on that as well. Then something else I wanted to talk about that has been in the news, it has been a next door, a lot of social media, license plate readers. So I just want to give a quick background because I was here for all of these reports. The first time that the city had LPR cameras in the city was on November 16th, 2022, went to council. We approved 7 locations. Those were basically, most of them were on Encinitas Boulevard and I-5, Encinitas Boulevard, North Coast Highway, Avenida La Posta, Rancho Santa Fe Road, and Rancho Santa Fe Road and Avenida La Posta. That we have to put them on different intersections. So those are the first 7 that we put up. Then we went to council again on, and I have that date, hang on a minute, That was in May 15th of 2024. On that, we ended up putting 17 locations. So we have 24 altogether. And most of those, again, Encinitas Boulevard, Rancho Santa Fe Road, Birmingham Drive, Interstate 5, Santa Fe Drive, Interstate 5. So they're generally in areas of people coming in and out of the city. Warren, could you put up a picture for me real quick? We have received several reports that people are seeing these type of cameras out in the community. Those are not our LPRs. Our LPRs are on traffic control devices. Some are owned by Caltrans. Ours do not look like this. If you see one, and this is actually in Cardiff, and this is located in our right-of-way illegally, because people are not supposed to put things in right-of-way owned by the city of Encinitas. So we went ahead, and Code's looking into this, and Dan Nutter acknowledged it's our right-of-way. I talked to Councilmember San Antonio. I think there's one out in Olevenheim. So if folks are seeing these cameras pop up, please call the city and report it, because these are not our LPR readers from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. And just to let you folks know, with that.
Do you know who's putting them up?
We do not. We're trying to find out. So if it's in our right of way, we're trying to contact and see if it's any type of like homeowner.
Yeah, well, I've heard from 2 homeowners groups in Liebenheim that they've done it. Whether they did it, I don't know if they did it on the right of way, but
If it's on
did,
private
they'll-
property, yeah, but
can
if
move
it's, yes, they can. You can certainly put it on private property. But just a couple things about the license plate readers that we want to do assure folks, because we've had them in our city for a while. The information is only kept for 30 days, and this is managed by the San Diego Sheriff's Department, not our city. Organizations granted access to the San Diego County Sheriff's information. None. They do not share it with any immigration, other federal, or other agencies. They keep it themselves. What's detected? It's only license plates and vehicles. There is no facial recognition. You can't tell what the person is, any type of gender or race. And the data is only used for law enforcement purposes. And there was just something in the news in Virginia that unfortunately some people, law enforcement officers, did illegally look at some license plate readers. San Diego County Sheriff's, that is a huge no-no. And I talked to Shane, and just a couple things. It helped find a suspect who stole $900 worth of Lego merchandise from our Target, and through LPR readers, they were able to apprehend that person. And then there was an individual who burglarized a home in Del Mar, burglarized a home in Encinitas, burglarized a home in Solana Beach. So after 3 burglaries and thefts, through different flock cameras and through the LPRs, they were able to apprehend that person to stop those burglaries. So the Sheriff's Department does absolutely find these cameras very instrumental in helping to find individuals. But I just wanted to be able to clear that up. Anyone can go on our website. You can find the 2 staff reports that I talked about, and you can see we have right of entry agreements where we allowed them to put it on our property, and it even has the sheriff's policy on what they do with the data and how they use it. So really wanted to hopefully clear that up for people. But again, if folks are seeing this, please let us know. If it's on our right of way, we will take care of it. Okay, and then lastly, we'll end on a happier note, I guess. Encinitas Art Night is back. So we are doing our art night on August 15th from 6 to 8. It's going to take place, we've got Encinitas City Hall. We also have a couple other exhibits at the library, Pacific View, and our community center. So if you can come out, it's 6 to 8 p.m., and which is this Saturday, and enjoy some great artists and have a full experience of art in Encinitas. And that's what I've got for tonight.
City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to note that we were doing AB 1234 trainings a couple days ago, and we're going to have a couple more sessions on Monday in case any of you would like to attend. Okay. That's it.
And then City Clerk. Nothing to report. And with that, we are adjourned at 9:05.
Okay.
Hey,
Very.
we're adjourning at the same day that the